live from Pahrump. This is the show that we call
Tech Talk Taco Tuesday.
And we talk about dirt bikes and dirt bike related products. We answer your questions. We do this, lately we do this when Jimmy feels like doing this because Logan, I told Logan, I said, Logan, I think you're going to have to take over Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. You're going to have to just do the whole thing. Didn't I tell you that? Maybe, but you didn't pay attention.
No.
And you haven't been taking notes. How many shows have you been on, Logan?
58.
58 of them.
If I had to guess.
Okay, that's a good. Yeah, I was going to say 60. I was going to guess maybe more. And so you're totally prepared to be the host of this show when I keel over and die. Because everybody expects this, you know.
Yeah.
They want on Tuesday night. They want Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, and we all know in this world that we live in, there's things like COVID, and then we ride dirt bikes, and both of those things can kill you. And what happens if probably more likely if I go ride my dirt bike and something bad happens, then Tech Talk Taco Tuesday has to go on. So you've got to take the reins, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So tonight, why don't you answer all the questions?
All right.
And then I'll read them. Is that better?
Let's try this.
Oh, that's game right there. No, I'm just picking on Logan. I usually do I pick on you a lot in this show?
A little bit.
Little bit. Okay. But you keep coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's Tuesday night. It's a full moon. I was just informed by Mojave Bob. And now should we start calling you Pahrump Bob or just Bob who knows Bob wherever Bob?
Yeah. I don't know where I'm at either.
Yeah. So Mojave Bob said it's a full moon. He said be warned. So it's good advice. I'm sure some people have some questions about what's going on with dirt bike test, and I'm going to answer that question. Probably because I went on vacation a couple times, the network canceled the show. You knew that, right, Logan?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so that last week the network canceled the show, and the weekend before did we do a show or was I just on vacation? I was gone. I just dropped out. So, and then the problem is technically the company that runs dirt bike test stopped doing business at the beginning of the year. So technically on December 31st, 2020, the company that does all of this, whatever this was, kind of stopped operating. And that was because, we hadn't lost any money, but we hadn't made any money. This company and some of the partners in the company, some of their things changed and folded, and they kind of went away. And when we did this digital magazine, which we did last year. I hope everybody looked at it. Well, and if you didn't, you could be part of the problem, but then again, you're not to blame because maybe you didn't know about it. So a lot of stuff we were really trying to kind of inject some enthusiasm and make stuff happen with, to get this rolling, and it just didn't do what it should have done. And you can sit here, especially in my position, and point fingers and say, you did this wrong and you did that wrong. And every time I point a finger, I have to point it back at myself and say, well, you didn't do this and you didn't do that. And I, unfortunately, just maybe didn't have time to do it or wasn't that super invested in doing all that stuff. So, and it's funny because I decided that tonight we were going to come on this show and kind of explain what was going on. So, because I really appreciate the people that show up on Facebook every Tuesday night, the 40 to 60 to maybe 5 of you, however many it is that are paying attention. I feel obligated to kind of explain this because this was sort of a passion project for me. But right now we're in the midst of deciding where all this stuff goes. Like how does it all kind of where does it all land? Where does the dust settle kind of thing? But it rained, you know that?
Yeah.
It snowed
Yeah.
and there was no dust today.
None.
No dust to settle. Right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I didn't care today. I just, the probably the biggest reason we're doing this show tonight, right now, is why.
We had great riding. today.
Right. Exactly. And that's what motivates me to want to come on and talk about dirt bikes when I have a good riding experience. And it was like, it could not have been, I mean, your ride over here was a little shitty, I think.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What? So you rode down the street from your house and you go straight out and then you cross the last road and then you're onto dirt. Well, it's not pavement, right?
Not pavement.
Then what happened?
I went about a quarter mile and I was like, okay, this is okay. It's okay. And then it got super bad. I was like, all right.
Explain super bad. Because I saw what super bad looked like. And like, it's not that you crashed. It just,
Nope.
What does it look like?
Oh, it was like, just giant mud things, this big popping out in front of you. It was just like, oh boy.
Donut wheels?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Logan rode the first lap of practice, like all the way to my house. Because it's funny because in Pahrump, we have 360 degrees of dirt around the city. And like if you go straight north, it's kind of rock. And then the more you go to the south, I would say the southeast, it's sand.
Yeah.
And you're kind of when you go straight south, you get to, we'll call it moon dirt, silt,
Yeah.
dry lake stuff. And that swings all the way up until the rocks. There's this whole area where it's just it's poof dirt silt.
Yeah.
So so he had an interesting ride over here. I saw his bike and I was like literally like, oh, this is a bad decision. We shouldn't have gone riding. But in my head, something told me because I know where I don't really ride over in your area that much.
No.
Yeah. So we use that. We go over there because there's lots of good roads for like rally training and stuff. But I really don't want to go hit the carpet jumps and there's some good rocks over there, some little rocks to crawl around on. But it's why is my computer wanting to update the software right now? This is so typical. I'm trying to close it down. So anyways, but we went riding and it was one of those days that you like, I think these days you want to post on Facebook about it, or you want to put an Instagram photo or something but I didn't want to stop riding. Like, when we rode up the sand dune where we did on the sand hill track, that sand dune with the snow on it and the sand dune and everything like that. It was like, you look at that and you go, oh, we should take a picture of this because it's so rad. It never happens like this. And I'm like, screw it.
Yeah. Missing of the 30 seconds of riding was not worth it.
Yeah. Not worth it. Not worth it. So, anyways, so kind of back to that's probably the main reason why we're doing the show. Cause like earlier today when I was just running around doing my normal stuff, I was kind of like, I'll skip it again. I don't necessarily need to do that. I've untied myself from certain obligations. Speaking of obligations, you're gonna have to grab one of those old sheets and we're gonna talk about, well, that's a good one to take because I have to talk about some of that stuff too. But you got to do your read.
No.
The work part of this?
This one or
no, the Honda one. That one right there. Yeah, you got to do that. So this show has been brought to you by, maybe brought to you by in the future. Could be, but we're not super tied in right now because. You want to know how I'm deciding whether we're doing it? But I haven't been paid. We haven't been paid. The company wasn't paid for this, and this is the okay. So here's the hell that I deal with. This is probably a solid 30% of it. It's like, so we have these sponsors that come in, and some of them are awesome to deal with. You send them an invoice, the check shows up right away. You don't have to explain to them that, no, we're dirt bikes and dirt motorcycles and off-road. And they're like, oh, but we have this really interesting, we're really pushing our touring bike this year. Like on-road touring bike. Oh, no, it's the touring bike. No, it's on-road. Oh, yeah, but well, aren't you motorcycle? and it's I have to have this discussion, and then it's like, no, I can't. If I did a read for, and I kind of, if you know enough to understand what I'm talking about right now, if I did a read for a company's touring motorcycle, you would think we were idiots. Like if I had Logan right now tell you about the 6-cylinder, with Bose sound and integrated, like your mind talks to the computer and it rides itself, like you would not be interested in that as a viewer of this podcast or live show. And for me to have the time I have to spend to explain that, and then I have to kind of chase them down and tell them that, oh, no, we're two-wheeled dirt bikes. Like, okay, which one is that? And you're dealing with this company's multi-million-dollar marketing budget, and we're trying to get a couple nickels out of it. And so this stuff is difficult for me. And it's not on the person. The person at the agency is just doing their job. They are doing a job, and they got interested in advertising and advertising agency. The fact that they worked for a motorcycle company, or maybe that company is now a Powersports company, or maybe they're managing the whole budget for the whole brand. Whether that involves cars and other stuff. And I don't know. I don't understand their job as much as they don't understand what we do. And so those hells are part of the reason that because we don't have, it's like Dirt Bike Test was essentially 3 dudes in their spare time doing doing the work. So that's 30% of it is just like, I don't want to do that. I just want to be Jimmy. I want to produce content. I want to ride dirt bikes, tell you about how they work, be reliable and credible. And then, so I'll get to the 2 next 30% as we dive into this show, and I'll try to explain this, if I can remember exactly which 30% I'm talking about. But the first is just dealing with the business side of it, which I understand business and economics and stuff like that just enough to make myself somewhat successful, but to figure out how budget codes work and how to submit things and do RP requests for proposals, fill out requests for proposals, which is basically an ad agency telling me to do their job for them and then sell them on the program that they're going to all of a sudden say they discovered and then pay me to do. I'm like, really? It's like you should know who you should. And here's the problem is that they go on Google or they go on something and search some key terms, and then they see who the quote influencers are, and that influencer is the same guy who can ride a motorcycle with 40 pounds of air in the rear tire and tell you how it works and not know it. And then he gets more views, so he's better at tagging his stuff or attracting viewers. And this is the conundrum, and I've got a rant about that later on too. I was going to let you talk more, Logan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, should we go to the questions on the? Should we go to the question? No, you're going to read your read.
All right.
Okay, you do that.
Honda and their new 2021 CRF 450R is designed to take you straight from the starting gate to Victory Circle. This awesome open-class motocrosser features all-new chassis, a major engine overhaul, new suspension, and new bodywork. And you can forget about clutch fade, adjustment, or hand fatigue with the new hydraulic clutch system. Lighter than ever, the CRF 450R explodes out of corners when it's time to increase your lead. So get on down to your local dealer and check out the 2021 Honda CRF 450R. Go to mx.honda.com to see our full lineup of competition bikes. The CRF 450R is intended for close course operation only.
Good job. Too bad we're not going to have to read that anymore, right?
Yeah.
Just when you nail it. You had the KTM one pretty much hooked when that one, and I suspect that we lost that because I didn't nurse it. You know, I didn't go babysit the relationship, and so, and I'm not babysitting the Honda one either. because this is all paid for. All this is all the equipment and stuff here. You fans out in the audience, you're paid for. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. No, you paid to be here, right?
Yeah, you get your invoice tomorrow.
I mean, the invoice. I mean, Logan collects $5 at the door, right, bro?
Yeah.
So, oh man, I saw a lot of good comments on the thing. I got to kind of respond to some of these things.
Yeah.
So, for sure, thanks for welcoming me back, Rusty. About the shirts, because I sent out some shirts, and I know I have some orders that I haven't gotten to in 2 weeks. That portion of Dirt Bike Test for sure is getting shut down. Like the Shopify, the thing that we have, and it's expenses that you know it didn't make sense, but I'm not going to do it. And I have the current inventory of shirts, which I might give to somebody that's more interested in handling that. But I'm going to shut the Shopify down. So if you want shirts, so what time is it right now? I'm just going to timestamp this. It's 7:19 p.m. on January 26, 2021, in case you're listening to this at a later date. That Shopify is going to exist for a maximum 2 more days. So 48 hours from right now. If the order isn't placed by then, you cannot get another Dirt Bike Test t-shirt in any way, shape, or form that I know of, other than like beg or something like that. I'm not sure. So if you're interested, I think I have 2 or 3 pending orders. I'm pretty sure the people I noticed the names, some of the names, the people that ordered shirts are in the chat room right now, and I'll get to those. But in 48 hours, I'm going to shut that whole operation down. So good on that. Yeah, I'm wearing a Baja Designs hat. That's actually Baja Designs is one of the people on my happy list. Actually, I should have gone and looked at the list of the people that paid us for the magazine like they were supposed to. Dan Shui. How do you say that? SCHEWE.
This in the chat room?
Shu. Says KTM 500 world domination proved me wrong. Okay, I'll prove you wrong.
Bell?
Huh?
Bell?
Bell.
The Bell?
Oh no, I'm talking about a KTM 500. That's totally legit.
Yeah.
It's that other bike we don't talk about. We kind of got like our tongues clipped.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of. I'm telling you that I've been having a couple KTM 500 not so happy moments, but I did somehow just get did I get suckered into, or did I just buy a new one? Should I tell the gym story about so my buddy Jim, who is one of my coaches at the school, I want to just say Jim is not a motorcycle guy. He's not a motorcycle enthusiast, although somebody did produce a picture of him on like an old PE 250 Suzuki Enduro bike back in the day. So he's been around for a while, but I never talked to Jim about like motorcycle racing or anything. He just likes riding dirt bikes. He came to my school a couple times, and then he kept coming to the school, and then he wanted to come and rent a bike and ride all over the place because he lived in New York. So anyways, he retired and moved out to St. George, Utah, and bought a KTM 500. He bought the 6 days edition, and it was a 2020. He bought the Portugal one, the one that was for the Portugal, or it was 2019. I don't know. It's one of those 2019 to 2020. It's ISD Portugal bike. He had it. He rode it for a long time, well, a year and a half. Lots of miles. Thing was well set up, and he needed to get a new air filter for it. Because I guess his other one was worn out or whatever. So he went down to the dealership and bought an air filter, but they had a brand new one that said Italy on it. A KTM 500 6 days said Italy. He went home, and so his wife said, "Hey, they had one just like mine, but instead of saying Portugal, it said Italy." and she says, "Oh, why didn't you buy it?" Well, I didn't know I could, so he went down and bought it.
Okay.
He went down and bought it. He's done well for him, so he's good. Went down and bought an air filter, bought a brand new bike, brought it home, and then so he brought them both here, and then he proceeded to start taking all of his parts. His steering damper, he has Scott's steering damper and stuff, and his triple clamp, he moved it over. His Chirby's tank, he moved over. He liked all of his stuff, that he had on his bike, and so he was proceeding to move his recluse clutch, all the things. And then he goes, "Jimmy, I think you should buy this bike. That's really nice." So I guess it's the 19, whichever the Portugal one is. It doesn't matter. It's a KTM 500. It's a good bike. So I think I may have bought that bike somehow, way, shape, or form. It's in my garage. I bought it without a rear wheel because he said the one thing he wanted to have a spare rear wheel. So he said, "Can I take the one off that one?" I'm like, "I think so. You're selling it to me and just without a rear wheel." So he said, because he noticed I have a lot of rear wheels because we're always switching them around from all the rental bikes and stuff. So I have extra ones. So anyways, KTM 500 is really, it's dominating my wallet right now. So yeah, I need to upgrade some because I started realizing that my old ones are actually really, really old. They have probably too many miles on them. We're talking getting close to thousands of hours on these bikes, and it's enough mileage and hours on these bikes that I probably shouldn't be riding them as hard as we do, especially when we're doing rally training. So I'm looking at preserving one a little bit more only for rally training, and then taking the other ones and moving them into our rental fleet. So okay. Thanks, Mark. Yes, I did deserve my vacation. Todd Kelly says he missed his Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. Mike Spurgeon says, that's Taco Mike, says the magazine was terrific. It was. Might be a one and done. You're going to have to talk to the other people about that. We will see. Let's see. Dwayne Coulter says, being a business guy is harder than it looks. Everyone. Hell, most people aren't very good at business, but you sure are good at riding and teaching riding. Well, thanks, Dwayne. I do okay with business because I just treat my business like a checking account, and it needs to have money in it, and I don't run on credit cards. And so we were Dirt Bike Test Moto Media, the company that owns it, was never really in debt. Well, not until the last part of the last year, we kind of went into a little bit of debt, and I loaned it money to bounce it out of the hole, and then I decided it needed to be shut down. So, Jimmy, there isn't another source out there with your insight and expertise, honesty, etc. You leave, that's a huge void. Well, we'll get into that. That's the next 30%. That's some of that later. Let's see. Jimmy and Logan riding together is like me riding with my son. So much fun. I'm not your dad. Your dad's right there. Yeah. I don't crash as much, Tim, do I?
I don't know.
You don't know. Are you just being safe here?
I just go big when I do it.
It was big.
I don't do it often, but I went big.
Does he tell you how to ride as much as I do?
No.
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 He just lets you go.
I've never taught him how to do anything. I teach him how to everything else to teach him.
Let's see. Rusty Neal, how do we help you keep going? Okay. That's a good question, Rusty. I appreciate it. When we first started doing this podcast, I kind of talked about hey, this thing needs to get sponsored and everything like that. And I believe it or not, a few people just out of the blue figured out how to send money, through some of these sources. And I don't, my goal was, my initial thing was because we talk about products and companies that, that have supported us and everything. And I'm like, that's a pretty good endorsement. I mean, I sell myself to these companies. It's like, look, if I'm going to talk positively about your stuff, you should have to pay for that in some way, shape, or form. It's kind of like a sponsorship. It's a sponsorship. Like you sponsor a top racer because they go out and win races. You want to, I don't do that anymore, but you want to sponsor what I'm doing, which is talking about stuff because and I wouldn't talk positively about your product if I didn't believe in it. So I'm probably gonna roll some of this stuff into some stuff you're gonna see me roll out through Jimmy Lewis Off-Road, through our riding and training classes and stuff. So there'll be a way. This format, I've spent enough time. I don't want to just like Ash Can Tech Talk Taco Tuesday. I like doing this. I like it when I get good questions. I like explaining the questions. I want to, have people get educated, but I don't feel like the way we were doing it before, when we were had the ability to promote products that, and the last few months, I've had people come to me and say, "Hey, can I give you this?" I'm like, "Yeah, you can give it to me." And they'll want to give it to you, or they'll say, "Well, can you put it on a dirt bike test, or can you do something with it?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll get to that in my free time." And they're like, "Okay, yeah, okay. Oh, you're free. When's that?" I'm like, "Free time." Just like how you have free time all the time, and that's when you just do your. And you just see them all of a sudden. They realize it's like, what are you saying, Jimmy? And I'm like, well, I'll get to it, and that's a free product. I'll just get to it in my free time. The paid products kind of take priority, and I do have some stuff that I was, other jobs that pay. There's jobs that have, there's a payment involved. It's like I'm going to do, I'm doing this, and a lot of most of it actually is not editorialized. It's not. I don't really talk about it. I'm doing something on a product development side or whatever, and I don't talk about it. I've got to do that work first, and then I have other things that I'm doing for myself, for our riding school and stuff. So the free time is kind of there was less and less of it, if there was much, and then the free time. Unfortunately, the free time kind of gets, that riding time that kind of gets put in between the paid time and the free time. There's riding time, which is part of me doing all the other jobs in total. So net free time was kind of in short supply, so I wasn't able to get to it, and therefore that didn't work out. So George, no, do not send money. Do not try to send money. And so if I wanted money in that way, I would do something like a Patreon, or like what a lot of these other people are doing. But all of a sudden that puts some sort of an obligation, kind of like I have to some of the sponsors, that we're going to produce X amount of content. And, in order to make this thing work, it was going to take more than I could do. And unfortunately, we couldn't get that much done and whether it was, on me or Trevor or Scott or however to get it done, it just wasn't going to get done. And I'm like, dude, we're writing checks that we can't cash, so we can't do this. And that's what the magazine kind of was starting to turn into. And we were literally, I would say, a third of the way into the next issue, and stuff started going south. So no, money can't fix this problem, George. It's time. I'm a sellout. Yeah. Let's see. I only play roll mix of what? Talking about dirt. Let's see. Yeah, I did send money back to not only one guy. It was actually a few guys I sent money back to. Any good questions on there, Logan? You see some?
Victor has a funny one at the end.
Oh, Victor, huh?
Yeah.
Hey, Victor's part of my problem. Victor, so in the garage right there, Victor hooked me up with a super awesome set of cabinets that I need to go install them. So that cuts into my free time, which is kind of how I do a lot of this stuff. So see, Victor, by you getting me those awesome cabinets, and Victor said, hey, I maybe helped him out. He's like, hey, they were probably, I don't know if they're going to trash him or he has a way to get rid of them, but he found Jimmy, and Jimmy shows up with his little truck and full Sanford and Sons, loaded those things up and took them out of here, and they're going to go in my barn, in my shop. It'll be really nice. So, Jim rides more than Jimmy now. That's what George says. That could be true. That's going to change. Jimmy needs a marketing and sales guy to drum up business and jump through hoops. I thought that I partnered with one or two of those guys, but not so much. Yeah. Okay. What does Victor say?
I would suggest that you say it.
Oh, why? Does that have bad words in it?
Probably.
Oh, probably. Okay, let me scroll down to the other. How far down is it? Is it way down there?
The most recent one. The second to most recent one. He says 2.
Okay, let me scroll down to the second. Victor, here we go. Can I send nudes instead? Instead of money. No. No, you can get those free on the internet, and that's it. That's the 30% of the problem I'm going to talk about in a few minutes. Thanks. Okay, I'm going to skip some of those other questions. So I got that's what it's going. What are we going to talk to Kevin? What does Kevin Moore say?
The biggest difference between EX350 and the KTM XC350: color, plastics, husky swing arm, no map switch, cast triple clamps, header without
resonance chamber. So this is Kevin Moore. I'll tell you a little bit more about this. We're going to take the deep dive into this. So I'll read this part. So he says, you were concerned about the vibration through a different exhaust and thought a different exhaust might help. It is less expensive to buy a KTM versus a new header and handlebar mount and a map switch. It seems like a header pipe shootout is needed. FMF Pro Circuit, 2 stock headers, rubber bar mounts, or borrow a KTM 350 EXC and test swapping parts. The flexibility of the cast triple clamps might be preferred by some. Okay, so this is what Kevin said. And I think Kevin had he made 0 videos on YouTube. This is a comment on a YouTube video I made. He's made 0 videos on YouTube because I wanted to see how he explained stuff. And I'm not picking on Kevin, although I'm just using him as an example. So yes, I am picking on you. Poor guy. He took the time to actually type this out, which takes something. And he thought about this, but it's like, where did you get that information? Where did you, Kevin, get the information that you just delivered back to me? Which I think we put this stuff out in our test as well, but he felt the need to say, okay, yeah, color, plastics, of course, that husky swing arm. Yes, we know this. We talked about it. No map switch. He's watched everybody else's video and he's collected that and he's coming back and trying to tell me like, this is what it is. But he obviously, he someplace, and I'd love to know where, because this is the problem is sometimes I have to kind of take a deep dive into where these guys are getting their information from. Like, why did all of a sudden he's starting to think, and I this is true that sometimes the exhaust systems equate to the way that the bike feels in something so similar as vibration. And says, I'm concerned about, he said, we were concerned about vibration and thought a different exhaust might help. I don't know where he's tying those two things together. It's funny because it made me think about it, because I have ridden, you put a certain exhaust on and the bike actually vibrates differently because it shifts the power, or the exhaust system actually vibrates. I've had that happen before because they're heavier or lighter, whatever. And then he kind of goes in, you just, pointing around different things about difference between a gas and a KTM and what might cost or not cost. How much time do you think it would take to do what you suggest to get those 2 pipes? So, okay, let's just say I'm Kevin and I want to do this. How do you get a KTM, 2 KTM headers, because there's different ones, and an FMF and a Pro Circuit pipe, besides just going out and buying them? Like, how do you do that? I mean, I can call them and probably get them if I explained what I was doing, but okay, how much time does that take me to do it? And we start talking about like what this would involve me to do to do what he's requesting. We're talking, okay, there's whether it's drafting emails or calling around, there's 2-4 hours set up there, then getting the 2 different bikes, I can probably manage to get one from KTM, get a KTM or whatever. But sometimes that's tough because KTM is sold out of motorcycles. And, you think about it, it's like, let's just do this. If we were, when I was back at Dirt Rider magazine, we would have all these bikes sitting there, and I would have staff that you would have people to do this. But in my things, now that I've kind of scaled down out of that, and it's just Jimmy doing this stuff, I have no way of doing this in a cost-effective manner to make it worth my time to answer the question you're talking about. So I rely a little bit on my experience that I know what that header pipe does on the majority of KTMs because I've tested them and that motor's the same. So it's like you want this level of testing and stuff, and you expect it for free, or you just want to watch a YouTube video for it. And we have it's like we had a magazine, but if you were really pumped on our stuff, how come we didn't? How come it only 10,000 people saw it, not 50,000 or 100,000 or something? And by the way, the guy who rides the gas and gives you an impression with 40 pounds air in the tire gets 140,000 people looking at it. So how come the quality testing doesn't get more? So yeah, so I don't know. Am I just bitching tonight? But anyways, that's it's and here. So here's something else funny, and I'm pretty sure you can look at our test. I think I rode the gas the two-stroke. We did a test on the two-stroke cross-country bike, the EX 250, I think it was, or 300. Yeah, so it was the two-stroke one, and I commented, I think I wrote about it, that the bike felt more like lively and responsive. It felt more aggressive than the KTM TPI bikes. This is a TPI bike. It felt more aggressive. And I didn't think much of it, but I just said, hey, it feels like this. I'd like to do, I wanted to tune the power valve a little bit because it felt like it could get better, but knows it. And now all of a sudden, all over the internet, there's, hey, that bike has a different flywheel. It's actually a different part number than the KTM and the Husky ones. Like, nobody told me that, at the intro. And this is the kind of information that I would expect them to tell you. But I rode the bike and it felt different, and I noted that it felt different. And now all of a sudden, okay, there's a different flywheel. Did anybody else say that there was different feeling, performance, whatever on those particular bikes? So they're just all regurgitating whatever they hear. And this is what Kevin's doing. Kevin's regurgitating what he read at other things. And I have to backpedal, or no, I don't backpedal. I just say, I'm not really sure that person's review is accurate because he rode it with 40 pounds air in the tires. Or he, everybody's opinion is valid. It's just how much experience are you backing up against that sort of thing. So what does Harley want to know?
Hey, Jimmy, I've been on a YZ450 FX and using it to cover all my off-road bases. I hit the MX track regularly this time of year and trail ride with it year round. I'm thinking I may get a pure MX bike next, maybe the YZ250F. And to go with it, I'm considering a KTM 300. I think I'm pretty much decided on a XC, figuring it would be better for desert riding and acceptable for the first and second gear trails around here. Suspension wise, I was thinking the XCW would be too soft, and the AER fork would be very tunable for different types of rides. But then I read and saw your videos on the 2020 300 XCW. You had very favorable words about the boingers.
That would be the suspension. Yeah.
On the W.
That's what the old people call them. What do you young kids call boingers?
What is a boinger?
It's the suspension.
Oh.
Yeah, because they go boing, boing, up and down, right?
Yeah.
What's a boinger to you? I shouldn't ask, right? Keep reading. Sorry.
So now I'm back on the fence between the two. A big question is if the XC has a power character that allows it to chug at super low RPM. If it is closer to the SX two-stroke.
Can I coach you through answering this question?
Sure.
You met Harley. Was he at the last class? He's on a YZ, or was he at the class that you weren't at?
I think the time.
He's on a YZ 450 FX.
Yeah, I think that was the one I missed.
When you missed. Okay. So, so it's funny because that question is all over the place. You look at it, and this is what happens. Like you get excited about motorcycles, and you're like and he's got a really nice bike. His YZ 450 FX is a good bike. It fits the kind of riding he's doing. You know, he's like, I would call him an aggressive trail rider. He lives in Vegas, near the Vegas area. Likes aggressive trail riding, and that bike is pretty good for him. But he's an enthusiast, so it's like, is there a better bike? And like he says, he's going now. He's starting to go to the track, and he wants to do that kind of stuff. And so if you don't have 57 motorcycles in your fleet to choose from, you have one or two or and that's what he kind of asks is like, does he go get a KTM 300, or maybe he needs a motocross bike and an off-road bike. And your dad's guilty of being a motocross bike guy, but I see he's saw the dark side and now he's buying trail riding bikes or XCWs, right? You like those?
Yeah.
They're better for hauling your girlfriend around.
Sure.
She likes the clean burning, low vibration two strokes, counterbalanced, right? Does she like the 125 or does she like the 300?
I like the 300, so I just ride the 300 and then.
Okay. So she doesn't get any say in the matter. It's like whatever bike you have access to, that's the one she gets to ride with you on? Yeah. Okay. Just checking. I don't know how this works these days. You kids are in a whole different world. So you start thinking about like, do I need two bikes, or here's if you're sitting there, if you're like a multitask rider, you want to do everything. You're going to have to make sacrifices. There's no one perfect bike. No matter whether we're talking about I want a light duty adventure bike. Like, does your light duty adventure bike need to go X amount of miles down the highway, or does it need to go down a single track trail? Then you're starting to think I want to do all dirt bike. Do you want to suffer on the trails, or do you want to have to not have as much safety and or on the motocross track? So there's always there's give and take on any of these questions, and I think I was able to take a KTM 300 XCW and do a works race on it, and of course half of the not half of the course, I'd say 1/3 of the course was motocross. It was on motocross tracks, or Grand Prix motocross tracks where there was jumps. Where that bike suffers is anytime you do any sort of anything that will compress the suspension, like a big load in the suspension, it uses up more stroke and travel, and then it also rebounds out quicker. So you have to kind of adjust the way you ride. Would I take I always have a motor. That's what the YZ125 is. That's my motocross bike. That's for being aggressive and riding, because I know the suspension is set up, and if it hadn't bogged, I would have hit that jump out there. Oh. Yeah, I would have done it. I would have tried it for sure, because I know I can get up on the flat part. I don't know if I can make that transition down. I have no idea so there was a jump. The jump these guys built out there, and nobody's hit it. They spent a lot of time shaping and crafting this jump. They actually were out there watering it before the rain and everything. I showed Logan, and he's like, "What's up with this?" Because you look at the shape of it, and it's freestylish, but really quick transition. And when we were out riding the other day, I had we had the gas in the 125 XC, and the guys were out there watering it. And they saw us ride up, and we have, we're doing photos and stuff. So, we're out riding. We have nice gear and everything. So, of course, we're the guys that are going to hit it. They're like, "You guys going to hit it?" And I'm like, looking at them like, Okay, I see that jump. I said, hold on a second. I went over and I rode up on it's kind of like goes to a table and there's a little bit of a transition. I said, where's the landing? Like if you're going to get shot off this thing, where are you expecting to land? Because the transition's pretty kind of crazy. So, but I would have done it on the YZ because I know I could have hopped up and I could at least saw how that thing, because I have no idea where the trajectory is, but I know I could have got up in the flat spot, and that bike is sprung stiff enough to where I could do a motocross landing. Had I been on an enduro bike, not only would I not do it because the way that bike would have gone into it, and
compressed, and then
compressed too much,
yes,
and rebound. Like I know my YZ would go in there and compress nicely and take off like a supercross. It's kind of supercross style jump. I know how it would have taken off, and I can trust it. Where an XC, to get the speed you need to get up to even the safe zone, it's a mystery.
Yeah.
And so here's the conundrum. Okay, well, now we're dealing with suspension. And then it's like, well, what about the power? And like, yeah, I can always modify that by how far I turn the throttle and what I do with the clutch, et cetera, et cetera. But so you're making all these kind of these compromises on like if you're a one type rider. I only ride single track. I only ride in the mountains. It's so easy to find the right bike, but when you start, and that's where these FX, like his YZ450 FX, is a great bike for that. KTM makes 350XC. That gas 350EX we had is a good middle of the road bike. I could take that and I would have no problem going to the motocross track right now on any of those bikes. Is it as good as a motocross bike because of the holdup? For me, no, because I can ride it fast enough to feel a difference between a true motocross bike and a off-road bike. But at the same time, if I never ride a motocross bike off-road just because I don't want the punishment. So that's where the line is drawn in the sand for me. So the power characteristic, and I think it comes down to this big question. When the power characteristic, that's easy to modify. You can do that with pipes and fuel tuning, and you can kind of make these motors these days do a lot of stuff. I'm more worried about how the suspension works and how the chassis responds, and do you want to spend the extra money to make it work? But the XC bikes, the Yamaha FXs, the KTM XCs, the Husky TX, they call them. What do they call the Huskies? TX, Honda's RX, Kawasaki now has KX XC. The XC or X's, they changed the name a couple times. But these are these bikes that are kind of crossover. Everybody has a different way of interpreting that. Like the KX ones are 100% motocross suspension. They didn't change anything. So for me, it's almost like not even an option because I know but maybe that 18-inch rear wheel will take a little bit of the sting off of it. So just deciding where you're going to go in that realm is kind of important. So hopefully, Harley, I answered your question. And then, like, does he go back and forth between 2-stroke, 4-stroke, or not really?
No, he's just wondering if he should get the YZ250 and the 300.
Have two bikes instead of one? I would say yes. Yeah, all day. Yeah, why not? Why not have one more problem in the garage? Okay, what's our next one?
Less Death 69. Jimmy, is there a point in washing your dirt bike if you only ridden in dry desert conditions? I don't lube my X-chain ring, so no crud collects on it. I'm failing to see the point in drowning my dirt bike just to remove the fine dust. Patina. I do regular air filters and oil changes, of course, but why wash?
Let's go around the horn on this one. Let's go around the horn. Logan, what do you think about washing your bike in the desert?
In the desert?
In the dust.
He doesn't do it very often.
Well, I know. No. I was going to say, I mean, your bike's a perfect example of it. I asked him when we got done riding today, even though it was mud on, I go, Logan, you want on the bike? No, I'll just do it at home, which means I'll not do it. But yeah, your bike came over and there was still a lot of dust on it from your desert race. Yeah. So, okay. So your answer is, do you want to wash your bike?
Not really.
Not really means no.
I don't wash them very often.
I don't wash them out. I'm so like
Not
father,
those bikes.
like father son, and I know the answer to this one.
I wipe it off with a dry rag.
Okay, so Ned, who has a couple bikes out here also, I've never seen Ned wash a bike ever. In all that I've known, I know Ned, never seen him wash a bike. In fact, like, so Ned's my father-in-law, and so Heather's bikes used to show up around me, and I'm like, good God, can we at least wash this thing so we can see where the problems are? So, Mojave Bob.
Air hose.
Air hose. So 4 out of 5 people in this room do not wash their motorcycle. So Les Death, you are you're in company there. I use my bike washing. I'm careful with it. I use a high pressure pressure washer. Sometimes I use a medium pressure one, but I use a pressure washer most of the time. And I use it as a time to give my bike a once over, and I look where the dust accumulates. That's oil leaks or seals that are going. And when I'm spraying things, I'm paying attention. Are there loose spokes here? Does this chain need to be replaced? Do this whatever? You know how when we're doing bikes at the school, which I make Logan wash bikes after our school, we wash all the bikes. Half of that procedure is they need to look good for the clients or as good as they can, but it's to look the bikes. It's give it a chance to look it over. So whether you're doing it with an air hose or a pressure washer, I mean, I don't think it's a big deal. And Bob is raising his hand.
Yeah, many people that use a high pressure washer don't know how to use it, and they ruin chains. They ruin steering stem bearings. They ruin shot hymens.
Yeah, you don't pressure wash the bearing openings and closings and stuff like that. I mean, I'll pressure wash around an exhaust.
People do those.
Oh, I know. I'll pressure wash around an exhaust opening and stuff, but generally we run the bikes afterwards, and we run them enough to where if there's any water any place, it'll burn out.
Right, you get the bike hot again, and so that gets
So immediately after washing, we ride the bike to take the water so the residual water kind of flies off, and so it doesn't sit there and do corroding or whatever it is. But I don't think you have to. It's obviously proven effective for these guys. They all still have motorcycles. And Bob, this is your third question. Next time you're gonna have to pay.
The prompt patina makes the bike look dead.
Prompt patina makes the bike look dead. Yeah.
It's got that pale ashen.
Yeah.
Look.
Yeah. The dirt here. Well, and plus our water is so spectacular as well. So. Okay, next one. So actually, Harley was asking a couple other questions. Gearbox wise, he's talking about the FX. I may have preferred closer spacing. So this is another thing about motocross bikes or off-road bikes is the gearboxes. You need to know do the gaps in the gearbox that give you a longer spread bother you? Or do you need the close ratio like a motocross bike? And the fact that you don't have a low first or a tall fifth or sixth, does that bother you? These are questions you need to ask yourself in deciding that bike. So I feel like my riding will pretty much be splitting the intended purpose of the two models. So any words of insight? I hope those were words of insight. Yeah? You're answering that question next time because we get it every fourth show, right?
Probably.
Okay, you know how to answer it. I can just sit here and drink.
Okay.
Okay, next.
Systematically diagnosing a problem.
Okay, so this is something else I wanted to talk about today. So we went out and we were out riding, and my bike did something. I didn't talk about this yet, did I? Because I talked about it a couple. So my YZ125 had a bog, and I kind of knew this because I went riding with Andrew Short and Eric Seiton, who was Ricky's mechanic before Dakar when they got here a day early before we were doing training. So we all hopped on some 125s and went out and rode around. And I put Eric on my super trick, mega awesome 2005 YZ125. And he kind of we were riding a little bit and he goes, dude, this thing has a gnarly bog. And I just blew him off. I'm like, it's a 125 because he told me he hadn't ridden a 125 for a long time. So this is what it's a 125. And then we were switching around on bikes because we had the KTM and the YZ125X and we were doing some back-to-back. And Andrew goes, dude, your bike has a pretty gnarly bog. Like Andrew says it. I mean, he knows what a bog is. And I'm like, really? Yeah, it's like that. I'm like seizing bog, hitting the kill button bog, running out of gas bog. He's like, I don't know. I was just going and it did it. And I'm like, more than once? He goes, yeah. And I'm like, Okay. So I hopped on it and I noticed it real quick, but then I just hopped off it real quick and got on one of the better bikes. That's what you're supposed to do, especially when you have brand new bikes around.
That's a valuable tip.
Remember that, Logan. Yeah. So it was running fine. It just evidently had a bog. And today we went out to the play area and we started like riding around doing some little jumps. And what's the first thing I said?
Like, this bog is really bad.
'Cause it was scaring me, and it was making me mad. And I'm like, what the heck could it be? And it's like, okay, it's got a relatively new fuel filter on it. Everything's good. Because of the bog, I actually pulled the spark plug out and looked at it just to make sure and checked the spark plug cap. And the first thing Logan did, to his credit, was I said it's got a bog. He reached in there and like checked my spark plug cap. Like I didn't ask him to. He's like, is this good? So, and I was thinking, as I said, God, it could actually be kill button related or something. So here's how you like. Okay, I've got a little bit of problem. I know, it's obviously a problem. What is it? How can we diagnose it? And so it's like a typical motor. It's like, okay, is it electrical or is it fuel? Or air, spark, fuel. And it's like the air filter's clean. I know this. It's good. It seems like it's getting gas. It's running fine most of the time. And then it's kind of electrical. So I was thinking, I wonder if the stator's going bad or just something weird like that. So I was like trying to notice, when did it do it? Like, what was the common symptom? Was it like wide open just when I was rolling on? But it seemed to be more on wide open throttle. So when I was doing this and it was happening, but I couldn't figure out why, I actually tried pushing the kill button. I was like riding along and I hit the kill button. I noticed, oh, that's a completely different kind of feeling. I noticed when it was doing this bog, you could kind of tell most of the time before it would do it a little bit, because it would kind of slowly come on. And I also noticed it was doing it in like more 0G situations, like unweighted. So in other words, I'd have to be bouncing through bumps. And it gets me in my head. It's like, okay, this has a carburetor on it, and sometimes the float level and all this, there's all these other issues. And so I rode around a little bit more and tried to see if there was any consistency in throttle position. Nothing until I'm riding a little bit longer, and I notice something my head remembers. When there's some junk in the carburetor and it bounces around and it plugs the main jet or gets in the way of the main jet, because it wasn't a complete like the kill button completely shut the power off. All of a sudden, it just like lose a lot of power. And so I'm thinking about it. I'm like, okay, there's junk in the carburetor. There's something in the carburetor. And sure enough, I said, oh, look, there's junk in the carburetor. And so what did we do when we came back after I washed my bike?
Yes. We took off the carburetor.
We took
the float
bowl, the little thing, and what was in there?
It was gunk.
Yeah, 2 nice big pieces of probably fuel hose. Not chunks of fuel hose, but sections of fuel hose. And because I'd obviously done this before, I put a brand new fuel filter on this, inline fuel filter on this, because I knew there was some junk getting in there. And so even after that, I'm like, okay, these are the problems. But I said, I need to pull the whole bowl off the bottom of this carburetor. And sure enough, even there, because it's been sitting, it's a 2005, at some point it sat, there's the accumulation of the 2-stroke oil or the residue. Those big chunks of or not chunks, they were like segments of stuff that we had to clean out, and so hopefully it's good again.
The gas evaporates and the oil doesn't.
Yeah, the gas definitely. And I don't remember the gas ever evaporating out, but who knows? I mean, I think the oil could have just sat down there. That bike sat at points for a year at a time.
Did you run bean oil in it?
That's what I remember. That's what I said. I said it might have been the caster. I may have run caster at some point. You see how picky I am about my oils, right? Yeah, I usually only grab 3 different cans of different types of oil to make sure that my oil is full. And mixing 2-stroke is just like, 40 to 1 ish. Yeah. So that's how you like take some time and think about it, as opposed to just like, flapping your arms up in the air and saying, oh, this doesn't work. It's like, okay, there's a problem. We have identified it. It's repeatable. It happens. Then start looking into it. If it were like, I've gone to the point where, is it lean or rich? I pull the choke. and does that make it run better or worse? Or, block off some of the air vents so that you can make it lean or rich, or, try pushing, switch out easy to switch out parts really quickly. And does it make it better or worse? Okay.
Nachi Quinty?
Yeah.
Okay. New seating video.
No, that's nauseating.
Nauseating. Video. Oh, to watch with the camera angle.
So say that name again?
Tachi Quinting.
That name is nauseating to pronounce. Yeah, you with one. He has one follower, I think, on YouTube, and he's got enough balls to say that to us. He's right, But you know what? There's a button you can push that will turn it off. And you don't have to watch it if it makes it nauseating. Because I don't watch nauseating, but like the fact that I would really prefer constructive criticism. Identify the problem and propose a solution. Kind of like I just talked about with the YZ125. We had a bog, we worked through it, we got a solution. Now we have a good running motorcycle. Yep. This
is all he's saying is it's nauseating.
He says nauseating video to watch the camera angle with the camera angle. Oh. It's like, guess what? I don't know how to do anything better than that. So you throw up. That's the result of what you should do right there. That's what I think. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You get what you paid for. Like, I can provide a service. Like, actually, I'm going to start nauseating video channel, and I'm just going to do my shit, and you can watch my nauseating videos and go from there. So, you want to start that channel with me, Logan?
Sure.
I'll let you edit them, and then I can blame you.
Yeah.
Next.
Doug Tooney. Hey, Jimmy, really enjoy the show, but my work schedule prevents me from watching Tech Talk Taco Tuesday live. So thanks for taking the time to answer my questions. I ride a 2014 KTM 200 XCW in Ohio and Kentucky. A radiator hose recently developed a leak, but I ended up replacing all of the hoses. I removed the thermostat and housing because I was too cheap to buy all the modeled hoses.
So, yeah. So, what's his name? It's Doug?
Doug Tooney.
Doug. Yeah. Hey, Doug, you're just like me. Like, if I could find the hoses cheaper, I'd probably do exactly what you did. So, it's in reality, is there a problem? No. And he kind of identifies it, like on a lot of the competition bikes and stuff like that, there's no thermostat. In reality, on the 4-strokes, on the fuel injected bikes, because they do take a temperature sensor, there's the temperature plays into the jetting and stuff like that. It could cause your bike to run not as ideal as if you have the thermostat, which is going to, thank you, sir. It would, the thermostat is there to help the bike warm up quicker and keep the bike at a consistent temperature. And so, yeah, Bob, you want to interject?
If you're riding down,
hey, do you want to do this, host this show with Logan?
If you're driving down a country road,
right,
and you don't have a thermostat, it's going to run way too cold.
Like I was saying, it's in there to make so the temperature stays consistent. There's an ideal operating temperature for a motorcycle. And generally, like the way that they design the cooling system, they make the radiators big enough to handle the cooling load under normal usage. Now, if your normal usage is riding it in the snow and with cold air always flowing through it, it's a lot different than us riding out here in August when it's 115 degrees. And so at that point, like when it's hot, you don't need a thermostat. It's wide open. It's just flowing straight through. It's maxing out the cooling capacity. So if you take it out, just warm the bike up. Make sure you warm your bike up. You have to be a little more concerned about that. It takes a little bit longer. And then just be careful if you are riding and the air is really cold and all of a sudden you're going to put a lot of air through the radiators. going fast. But I tell you, in all of my years of desert racing and stuff, I've never had a properly warmed up bike seize because all of a sudden I started going really fast and, cooling down the radiator. My KTM desert racing bikes, and they were 125 and 252 strokes, never had a thermostat in them, and I never had a problem with that. So I think it's a convenience piece, essentially, just to make it more ideal. But then again, your KTM 200 is not really meant to be going wide open down a road when it's 30 degrees outside, and that may actually cool stuff down enough. Again, okay, it's 20 cents.
It's a really important
quarter
for the fuel injected bikes because they'll get so cold that they'll run off the end of the lookup table and think you're trying to start it in cold weather and just keep dumping fuel and dumping fuel.
Yeah, that's what I said. That's what I said is like the fuel injected bikes are a little more sensitive to this because their mapping, not their jetting, their mapping is dependent. There's a certain mapping for every temperature, and if it goes down to too cold, it's going to do whatever it does to do the startup. And on emissions compliance bikes, and maybe Chris Reel can comment on this a little bit more, they have special startup loops that, when they know it's dead cold, and if it gets down to that temperature, I don't know that these ECUs can say, hey, whoa, we're starting again, and they do certain things where they get really rich and then really lean because they start the bike and then it can't produce emissions. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into those things, but his bike is not that, and I think he's going to be just fine. We were talking about working on your riding today. I was going to talk about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What'd you learn today?
In sand, a 125 the throttle is an on and off switch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, most. No, actually, on a 125, the clutch is an on and off switch for sure.
Yes.
I didn't go into the whole clutch thing. I didn't tell you to just lay off the clutch, right? We didn't get there.
No.
Yeah.
Which I don't touch that.
You don't need the boost power?
No.
You don't?
No.
Really? Do you remember I told you my problem was like I get on it too early and I have to pull the clutch in, so I reduce the power with the clutch, and like that's like my problem. So where this show actually may go, if it goes on to Jimmy Lewis Off Road, it goes on to our riding schools things. We actually may talk a lot more, or we may develop a whole new podcast show that deals specifically with riding techniques and how to deal with riding techniques, and that might actually be something you may have to pay for, subscribe to. So look for that in the near future. It's something we've been working on since COVID. Matt, you remember Matt, that kid that sits over there every once in a while? He's a Prump kid, but he tries to deny it. He's like trying to be all Reno. What is like Reno now? Like that's definitely higher class than Prump, right?
Yeah.
Huh? Not really? Huh?
I struggle with that.
You struggle with Reno. Really? It could be worse.
I think it is.
Okay. I don't know. It seems nicer. It's like you can.
Yeah.
No, we have mountains.
Well,
you can
they
see
have their
mountains here.
stuff.
They have their stuff.
Like, look at the median house there versus here.
Oh, yeah. No wonder I have to pay him all the time because he needs to afford to live up there. He could just move back down here and like live under a rock for almost free.
But he's going to UNR.
Yeah, he was a physicist.
Money.
Yeah. So we've been working on developing some pretty cool stuff. So that's the thing that's going to take up more of my time. So we're kind of working on that. But so it's funny how, I mean, you teach at my school. You're a coach at my school. You're almost like Jim, except you're not trying to sell me a KTM 500.
Yeah.
Right, without a wheel. Well, no, the bike had the wheel when I agreed to the purchase. It just the wheel seemed to leave the negotiations afterwards. Yeah, but it. So, did you ever think like what I told you? And I told you like I wanted him to. He was kind of like. So he was kind of rolling the throttle on a 125 and that's not that effective, especially on a KTM. And we actually talk about this in the test that we'll put up there that Matt wrote, about that throttle. The bike doesn't accelerate unless it's wide open. When that throttle goes to wide open, that bike all of a sudden comes live and it starts moving. It goes fast. Yeah. So had I not said that to you, would that have ever occurred?
Probably not.
Probably not.
To go twist it further.
Just to we're riding around a track. We're riding around probably a half mile long track, something like that. It's a sand track that we use. We were riding around it, and I could tell you were kind of like struggling with it, or no, you were struggling. You're just kind of riding. You're just kind of riding around. You're doing okay. Actually, I noticed he's really good at like staying in the lines, like ruts, like what usually freaks people out. He's putting his wheel in ruts that should bother most people and doing fine with it. Because he was. I every lap I'd come around and his track was right in the rut, and it was getting deeper and deeper and no problems. But he was also kind of squaring up the turns. These little things you can kind of pick out. But the one thing, because I could hear it, it was like just wasn't on the gas. And I'm like, okay, Logan, I want you to practice one thing. Just put it in second gear, and I want you to the throttle is either two positions, on or off. Just on or off. And you did that for a lap. And what'd you notice?
I was faster in majority of the entire track in second gear than what I was before. Yeah.
And a lot of it, he was in over rev. I mean, he got on like that, and it was actually going kind of slower because he needed to shift. But I told him, don't shift. Just learn the power. Learn. And so it's just taking something that's really simple actually, but you never even think about it. And then just play with this. And then it was like, okay, now I'm going to let you shift, but I want you to treat the throttle the same way. It's either on or off. And it's hard.
Yeah.
Because what happened now?
Now you got speeds and
bike's going really fast. Yeah. Like really fast. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Especially his weight. I mean, that thing just gets up and goes. So when he clicks in the third gear and goes, that thing really, really goes. So yeah, we had a pretty cool, just like learning that. And then, so we went over another track, and I heard you were riding completely different.
Yeah.
And then when you stopped and you were listening to what I was doing, right?
Yeah, I was trying to just listen and.
Yeah, and that's the way you ride it. That's the way you ride a 125. Yeah. It's pretty much on or off, point and shoot. And you hear those times when you settle the throttle to kind of carry your speed around something.
Yeah. But
then you get it pointed, and then it's bang, and it's either on or off. There's not if you do this, it's you did something wrong or you're losing time. So it was pretty cool. I like I said, I noticed like the last time you were riding, even when we were riding back here, I heard you. It wasn't before. It was like, actually you didn't hear him. You didn't really hear him.
Yeah.
And on the way back in, it was like, the thing was taped a couple times. It was good. So, yeah, good on you. So where's our next
top?
Go for it.
Jim Jarvis. That was a class act by Ricky Braybeck and Sam Sutherland staying with Toby Price. That was nice to see among competitors. Also, nice job by whoever is loading the Tech Talk Taco Tuesday episode so quickly to the YouTubers.
Whoa, is that a compliment?
Yeah.
Yeah, you like that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that going to happen tomorrow, by the way?
Yes. Because
if it doesn't, this episode may never get uploaded.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Just check. So, we haven't really talked. We didn't really talk about Dakar, do we? We haven't done a show since then, or not much. But
yeah.
So there is a Dakar Daily podcast. I think the guys that did it, Quinn Cody and some, I don't remember the guy's name. Ziggy. He's the guy that ruined Dirt Rider. This Jesse Ziegler guy. They did an awesome podcast. They just Dakar Daily podcast that they kind of recapped each day and did some stuff. And I don't know if they've done any more episodes. I haven't really checked because I think I used to get a notification on my phone, but I listened to all of them and I was on a few of them. And they probably learned how much work and how profitable a podcast is. That's probably what happened. But if you want to hear takes on that, I would suggest going there. We just didn't get a chance to talk about it, and hopefully in the future I'll be able to get Ricky and the boys back in here, and we'll do some fun ones because those are always fun. I really, it's funny because they hate doing media because it's work, but they don't mind sitting around BSing here because they know it's not real media. But hey, in rally, in off-road racing in general, when somebody goes down, that's what you do. You stop. You at that point your race doesn't matter anymore, and you just expect that the race promoter somehow will give you back that time or whatever. And in certain racing, they don't have the ability to track it. In Dakar, they do because they have a GPS and they have an organization. They know when you stopped and how long you were there, and they can give you back your time and stuff like that. So in that rally, for sure, the riders know that and they even talk about it in this podcast that some riders have used it as a strategy play before, because they may, if they're opening, they can stop with somebody, or they're close to opening, they can stop and stay there. But those guys were truly, I know Ricky for sure, and Sam, with his teammate and stuff, they're definitely concerned with the safety of the riders, and they want to make sure that there's somebody there for that rider that's down in the helicopter, till the helicopter comes and stuff. But that's just the sportsmanship and stuff that we expect, and that's the way these guys really are, because they don't. At that point, they're more concerned with their competitor than their own race, and that's the first thing that goes through your head. After that, if there's some strategy to come into play, which actually Ricky kind of got screwed by stopping. Just when he left and released, he rode in dust the rest of the day, as opposed to having just a few tracks in front of him and no dust. But it's good. So what's our next one?
Charles Walters. Hi, Jimmy. Bought a 570 new in 2012.
A 570? What are those?
I don't know.
You don't know?
No. What are they?
I don't know. Keep going.
Okay. Not hard on it. Regular maintenance, etc. Checked valves 2 times. Once recently. Has not needed any adjustment or work to bike. I have 570 hours as of today.
Coincidentally.
Sure, I can hear the times.
The timing chain.
A little. No oil burn. Starts up consistently. I like taking long rides in Baja.
Does that sound like a dating profile? For me? I mean, it's like, is Charles trying to like hook up for a little, like, like a little rendezvous with some 570s? Like, we're not going to talk about what kind they are, yeah. What kind, so what do you suspect a Husaberg is? A Husaberg? Are we talking about Husabergs? That's like the lady boy of motorcycles,
Yeah.
Oh, geez. Yeah, we did it. We talked about some Husaberg 570s. How surprised are you that I didn't ride my Husaberg today?
Not super surprised.
Not really. Why not?
No. The last couple rain days, you said you were riding the 125, and I was like, perfect time.
Right.
And
because we haven't had that much rain.
And this was a perfect time for.
Right. I'll explain this to you, Logan, because it's kind of complex. You might need to have the physics degree that Matt's working on to understand this. So you need a certain amount of rain that goes down in the dirt enough to get enough traction for a Husaberg 570. Because like I was explaining to like Ricky one time when he's talking about how fast his factory Honda 450 rally bike is and all this stuff, and we were riding on this one trail that for me was completely smooth and just it was just awesome. It was like this road that wandered around, and he was like, dude, that thing was just so hooped out. And I'm like, yeah, I was in front of you. I mean, you didn't. He's like, it was totally hooped out, and he's like, what, your Husaberg digs hoops like that? I'm like, no, you don't even understand. There was so much traction that it actually warped the earth. So it's like, when a carpet gets kind of curled up?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what my tire was doing to the ground, because there was enough traction. It was just like, it was like making it like a strip of bacon. Like bacon comes out, it's like nice and flat,
yeah.
and it crivels and makes those wrinkles. That's what my Husaberg with a good tire on does to the trails. And so I have to be concerned about when I ride it. I mean, it's only when it really benefits me to experience all that horsepower. So, Charles's Husaberg is worn out. We need to talk about this. Husabergs don't wear out. Actually, if you're talking about working on them, we don't want to talk at all. Just don't want to talk about it. 570 hours. If it's not smoking, if you can hear the timing chain a little bit, man, I just wouldn't work on it. I would keep riding it and don't touch it. Cause you can actually take the timing chain off. You can pull the valve cover off and take the timing chain tensioner out and pull the side cover off and the flywheel off. And I think you can get the timing chain out and replace it. But generally if a timing chain is worn, so are the gears just a little bit. And, actually what you should do is pull the cam chain tensioner out on that bike. Take the cam chain tensioner out and look at it. And when you look at it, it's funny because the way that the KTMs work, you can count the teeth that it's out, and it's really distinct because the oil that burns and the marks it makes when you take it out, it'll extend, the spring will push it out, and you'll see a definite line where it was set. And if you're running out of teeth, then you need to think about your cam chain. If you still got a few teeth in there, call it good and just put it back in there. Don't even replace the guy. Put it back in there and just run that bitch. Just let her rip. Yeah, enjoy the sound. So, no, we're not going riding in Baja, me and you. No, it's not happening. Next.
The kitchen technician. Tailpiece fell off my friend's in short order too. Should be a bloody recall. It's unbelievable. Not on my 2 WRs. I just can't believe a manufacturer would even put this into production. In most of the events I do, it's always the KTMs that have the issue. Okay,
I'm just putting a bit of brakes on this thing here. The tall kitchen, the kitchen technician. So I that's what I do. When some people complain, I always go to see, how they handle their stuff. And he has like 3 followers or maybe 5. This guy might have had 5 on the YouTubes. And so he's talking about the KTM 350 video that we did a few years back. And I complained about the license plate bracket because they're floppy and they break. It fell off his friend's bike. And so now he's concerned. So it's not even his. So he's concerned about his friend's bike, and he's going to bitch to me about it on something that we identified as a problem. And now he's going to go into his love of Yamaha WR. So I'm going to introduce you to my buddy San Felipe Bob. So you and guys can go find your own little chat room and just like talk about WR love. And I have no problem with that because he's like he's going to stick with his 1999 WR400, which I think, do you have to kickstart those?
Yeah.
Those are still kickstart? Well, good, because I love watching you guys kick and kick and kick while I push my button on my KTM, even though my license plate may have fallen off, and I'm going to ride away and you can kick, and I don't know what you're doing after that, but
especially the WR400.
And his 2003 WR450R, that one might have an electric start. Who knows? He says thousands and thousands of hard, rocky, gnarly trails and no issues. KTM has been sitting on their laurels for way too long. That's why that's why they introduce a new one every 2 or 3 years that makes me need to buy one that says Portugal on it, because like my buddy got one that said Italy, because they change them so often that every year there's a new thing. And blue is a state of mind, baby. Like you can't even get a damn license plate on your WR, so you can't even ride like on 99% of the roads that I ride on with your WR, even though I don't have a license plate because it fell off. So with you and your 5 followers, take your kitchen to technician. Do I have any kitchen problems I need to have addressed? I need to talk to him. Like, I didn't even see any videos on how to fix your kitchen. Like, what? Do you know how to work on a Husaberg? Right? Okay. Okay. What's this? Oh, this is a question from somebody.
Eric.
Eric? Okay, yeah. Eric wants to know.
I am taking a huge risk on the redoing the top end on my bike, or just keep riding until it starts doing something unusual.
Oh, that was the Husaberg one. Somehow I pasted that in the wrong spot. Yeah, no. You're not taking a huge risk on your Husaberg 570. Okay, I'm gonna let you in a little secret here. If you just give it a little hug every once in a while, like nobody has to look. We just like going, just give your bike a little hug. Even at 570 hours, it's okay. It'll do fine. Just don't work on it. Just keep riding. Oil, air filters, all good. Nothing else. So this is Eric wants to know these questions.
Would you run Tubeless on a dual sport ride that takes you out into remote territory?
The question is, would I or have I? The answer, have I? Yes. Would I? Not by choice. The reason is, so Tubeless is an interesting system that turns your tube tire into a tubeless system. The problem is it's the problem and the benefit. It's back and forth. Is Tubeless is really good at running super low pressure in a tube type tire. That you don't have to worry about pinch flats, but you have to worry about getting punctures in the tire, and then some tires, the carcasses aren't very good at holding the air, whether it's seeping through the seal that they create with the tubeless or coming out somehow through the tread area, like if you were to get a small cactus needle in it, for instance. So for me, tubeless is I never need to run. When I go in remote territory, I typically do not run a pressure that would be advantageous to running the tubeless system. In other words, lower than 8 psi. And for that, I would rather run higher pressure, 10, 12, and usually I run 12 all the time, 12, 13, all the time on my bikes that are that size, the regular dirt bike size bikes. And so at that point, a tube, you're not going to get a pinch flat unless you do something stupid. And I know how to repair tubes, and I carry a tube. But with a tubeless, I also carry a tube, because if everything goes wrong, like you really slice the sidewall or something, you can put a tube in. So I carry a tube for that. Some people have said, hey, it's just as easy to patch to use the plugs like you use on a UTV or a car, to plug your pinch or your puncture on the tubeless tire and stuff. But that's just a different kind of setup, and I would always still carry a tube, so it's just more things. It's maybe just a little too complicated. So the answer is, by choice, no, I would not run tubeless on a dual sport ride. And here's the other thing about dual sport ride that I found. If your dual sport ride involves very low speed, where you would get an advantage from tubeless, and then high speed, I've been riding on like washboardy roads, and I've noticed my tubeless system, even at a higher pressure, 12, 13, 14 pounds, slowly work its way down, because I think when you're hitting those bumps on the washboards, or I've even had it happen on freeways that had the plates, the cement plates and stuff like that. It's because I think that the tire actually buckles or ripples or something enough to make a little bit of a leak between the tubeless and the tire. And so I've actually had them slowly go flat over long periods of time on washboard roads. I don't think they're ideal for dual sport. That's my take. Question number 2.
I hear that patches don't stick to heavy-duty tubes. I have found a tube and patch combo that are worth carrying.
Have I found a tube and patch combo that's worth carrying? So no, patches stick to heavy duty tubes as simple as they stick to light duty tubes or anything. So the tubes, the patches I started carrying when I was carrying them, because I don't carry them that much anymore because I run mooses a lot of times now, but were these ones called scabs, and they were these little purple things. They're made by the slime company, the company that makes slime. And you just take them, rough up and clean off the area on the tube, and just stick them on there and knead it, roll it down. And I had really good luck with those. There wasn't the need to run to have the little packet of rubber sealant stuff, the rubber cement, that no matter when I've ever gone into my fanny pack to use it, even if I just put it in yesterday, it's always punctured and hardened up.
Amen.
Yeah. So, and I've bought some that's in like little plastic containers, and I've tried putting them in containers so they're isolated. I've never ever had that stuff be like when it's brand new, when you buy it from the store. It's never like that when I use it on the trail. It's either 90% worn out or completely worn out. So the scabs were pretty good, but they have a lifespan. And generally, when I went into my fanny pack for the scabs, the patches to use them, I realized that they were at least 1 day past their lifespan, so they weren't as effective as the new tube I was also carrying, or better yet, the new tube I made my riding partner carry, because I always tell them, I forget bringing the new tubes. It's your job.
Number 3, I am still suffering through the Garmin experience. It has let me down less than the others I have tried, and it is the devil I know. I'm considering an Android phone with a GPS app. What is your choice for backcountry navigation?
I like how you are using the word Garmin and devil in the same sentence there. I tend to agree. I don't know if it's in devil or God, whatever, however you want to work it. But, because my problem with Garmin stuff is they're kind of a little bit like Apple. There's a certain amount of proprietary stuff that they kind of hold to themselves, and they make it difficult for you to take the information that you have in your Garmin and give it out, or take information you want to put in your Garmin and take it in. I prefer more open source thing. That's why when my go-to for backcountry navigation is the Trailtech Voyager. It's not for everybody because it's got its quirks and it's a little bit different. But I tell you what, that GPS unit for a motorcycle specific GPS unit or a UTV specific GPS unit, especially if you have friends, which I heard that having friends is really kind of neat. It's neat. They're like people you can do things with and they enjoy you. You know about this, Logan?
Yeah.
They have this thing called buddy tracking, and a friend and a buddy, I guess those are synonymous. So the thing about the Voyager is you have this buddy tracking, so you can see where your buddies are. And so if you're all using the Voyager, it works. And Garmin actually had a system like this. They had these little things called Rhinos back in the day. But again, it was their own proprietary software, and it was difficult to use. But the Voyager's a little easier to use, and now you can download maps into it. And, that's a whole game changer for that particular one. But I typically use I use JPS. It's the Jimmy positioning system. It no satellites required. It's more like how wolves can kind of wander around and stuff like that, and they howl and do that.
Yeah. That's
how I position myself. It's strange, hard to explain. But we have another question. Oh, all-wheel drive ATV. Here's where I need to explain the 30%, the other 30%, on what where the problems lie. Is so we're doing dirt bike tests and we're doing this stuff that's arguably it's got good credibility. There's good information, good testing. We're doing about as much as we could for what we were we weren't really getting paid, but we're doing enough to keep it rolling, doing some quality testing and things. And there could always be more, just like the guy wants us to test the 2 different headers and 3 different, do this. I mean, there could always be more. And us as content producers, we always wanted to do more, but it was just like, and everybody goes, oh, look, cool, you got a brand new bike. And I look at it as like, I got to shoot a video. I got to write a test. Wait, no, I got to shoot the video and I got to make Bob translate my words and write a test. And then I have to edit Bob's words, which are worse than my words, but then we spend collectively twice as much time because he did me what we call a bro deal. You know, he's trying to help me and I'm trying to help him. And net, we both get screwed. That's what a bro deal is.
You got what you paid for.
Right. And so like, it's not just a brand new awesome bike to ride. It's a lot of work. And I don't want to just flip it. You know, I don't want to just go, oh yeah, here, and, you know, take the spec sheet, which is like what, I think it was Kevin was the guy's name. He told us what was different between a gas and a KTM. Like, they hand us, well, actually, it's kind of funny. Gas and KTM and Husky, they're really funny about how they tell you the differences between the bikes. They pretend like they're separate companies, you know, but that's for them to decide how they want to present that. But, you know, so you can just take the spec sheet like a lot of these guys do and drop, you know, whatever they tell you. Here's all the new changes. And then that goes in their head. That goes in like, I want to test motorcycle guy. I'm going to test this. And then he goes and like rides it and like, what do I think about this? I'm not really sure what I think about this. What's everybody else saying about this? You know, and the ears, it's like they grow at the intros. Like these guys walking around with these giant ears. Like they're listening for the seat's hard. Oh, you said the seat, Logan, seat hard? You think the seat's hard?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Seat's hard. Okay. And then like the other guy, he heard the seat's hard, and all of a sudden now the seat's hard. And that's where they're gonna go with that. Or you know, you're looking around, you know who the players are at these intros. You know who the hot chick is at the dance, and everybody's looking to see what's she wearing. You know, that's what goes on at these intros. And there's guys that are, you know, they work for the bigger names or they do the thing, and then they say something and they're like, oh, suspension's too soft. Okay, suspension's too soft. Oh yeah, suspension's too, right? Suspension's too soft? We'll talk about it. Suspension's too soft?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, good. Suspension's too soft. We're good.
Yeah.
We're tight with this, you know, because me and him, and we don't, he said it. Oh, he said it? Yeah, okay. So this is what happens at these intros, and here's where your opinion is formed. And then guys like Kevin, they take it and they regurgitate, and then they send it back to me. They send it to their friends. So all of a sudden they're all sitting around. Did you hear about the new gaskets? Oh yeah, dude, the suspension's too soft. Seat's too hard. You know, this is where it's like a disease, and this is where stuff. This is where the internet and the social medias and stuff like that. And I saw this coming, you know, back. And the problem was back when it was just the magazine, you could be a ding dong and you could work your way into the magazine game and get there. And you could even be running a magazine as we'll call you a ding dong, a dum dum. And you knew how to make your boss happy. You didn't know how to test a motorcycle. And I just saw, here's where magazines are going, or content producers or whatever. Outside Magazine, which we know is Outside Magazine, they're pretty environmentally conscious. I just saw them post something about Can-Am UTVs, and I'm like, holy shit! I'm like, really? Because you know they talk about, like, you know, people driving off the edge of a dirt road and trampling a bush, and all of a sudden it's like off-roaders are ruining the world, and now it's like well, guess what? Can-Am obviously came with a shit ton of money. And they just said, okay, well, we'll produce some content for you, or, you know, who knows how it works. Everything's getting kind of screwed up. And the thing with this, and this is where I want to go with it, is I can't compete with somebody who's better at promoting themselves on the internets, on the social medias, that knows how to tag, that knows how to. So these people are experts at promoting themselves and promoting their brand and tagging. And I mean, I got literally sent to a friend of mine set me up with these guys that were, back when Instagram was more new, set me up with, you know, these guys that were Instagram influencers. It was before you'd really heard the word. And they're like, oh, you need to go hang out with these guys. And we went and kind of did some stuff for my school, and it was building the brand kind of a thing. And I got insta raped because these guys had never been in the presence of somebody who could operate a motorcycle at a high efficiency, B, understood photography and could put the motorcycle in the positions that I could put the motorcycle in. You know, that to do this stuff, and they were blown away by the amazing content that we got. And so they and all of a sudden they got to hang out with a guy who was sort of famous on the motorcycle side, and they wanted to be famous on the motorcycle side. Now we're buddies. We're Insta bros, and they had photos, and it was just like, and they did good for me. They got me some followers. You know, that was the whole thing. It's like, you need more followers. Followers. What do you know? And it was this whole learning curve of. So you have people that are really good at understanding how to manipulate. It's your eyeballs. It's the people that are watching. And I don't want to say that I'm doing that now, because I try to do it a little more organically. We'll just say, this is who I am. This is what I do. But you're on the other side of the screen, and there's other people that are really good at manipulating your eyeballs. And it's how they tag it, how they post it, how they understand how the algorithms will digest whatever you're doing and put it in front of you. And algorithms. Yeah. I'll get that right. Algorithms. How they process this information, and then they provide it to you, and all of a sudden now you're second or third party removed from what you actually wanted. You wanted a credible guy to tell you about motorcycles, but there's a guy who's better at tagging his stuff, and there's a guy that's better at doing all the stuff in the background, even though he doesn't know how to produce this content or make the content reliable. And it comes down to like, where, you got to trace it back. Where's the money? Where's the money going? How's the money? And it's like, or, from the social media platform side, it's like, he's not getting as many eyeballs as that guy who tags him better, even though he says, so we're going to put a flashy thing. And all of a sudden it's like, if I grew a beard and stood around in my garage and did some fancy camera editing work and made a good title card for my YouTube video, we get twice as many views. Sure. But that's going to take me, let's see, beard's 3 months. And the title card is, Logan was supposed to do that, but you haven't gone to school to do that yet?
No.
No, okay. I didn't teach you.
No.
No, you should have Googled it. And then we'd be better off, because there'd be a better title card. And even Trevor tried to help me. We got the fancy graphics, because otherwise it'd just be me sitting in front of that Mexican restaurant logo and going, Tech Talk Taco Tuesday with my thumb up like this. This would be your lead. Yeah. So this is what we're up against. It's like, are you really interested in the information? And now it's like, okay, something's getting more and more views. All of a sudden it's like, collectively we're part of a club. It's like, you may have a crazy idea. You may be into Yamaha WRs, like our last, question was. He's all into Yamaha WRs, and they'll figure that out, and they'll start putting you in front of other people in front of WRs. And all of a sudden, him and San Felipe Bob, they're all in the same thing, and they're talking Yamaha WRs, and it's like, we hate KTMs. And it's like, really, you should be buying a Honda CR450R, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that? That's the, where's the reed? You're supposed to just drop right into that reed, Logan.
Boom.
Bam. Yeah.
Oh.
Oh, where is it?
Right here.
Yeah. No, that's the California emission standards for off-road vehicles.
Logan, you blew your cue.
Yeah. So really, so that's why this show is so good, right? John would like a CR450R, I think. Where's that guy?
Oh.
Big John?
Yeah.
Yeah, where is that guy? He's off the radar.
Going playing with aliens.
Aliens, huh? Yeah. We have those out here? So, okay, do your thing. We got to do it 2 times. We'll get this out of the way, and I'll keep bitching. I don't know where we're at.
Honda's new CRF 250. Whoa. Restart. Honda's new 2021 CRF 450R is designed to take you straight from the starting gate to victory circle. This awesome open-class motocrosser features an all-new chassis, a major engine overhaul, new suspension, new bodywork. And you can forget about clutch fade, adjustment, or hand fatigue with the new hydraulic clutch system. Lighter than ever, the CRF 450R explodes out of corners when it's time to increase your lead. So get on down to your local dealer and check out the 2021 Honda Sierra 450R, go to mx.honda.com to see our full lineup of competition bikes. The Sierra 450R is intended for a closed course operation only.
So mx.honda.com to get your next bike that's not a Honda or a Yamaha WR, where you can go into the chat room and enjoy it. Yeah, thanks to Honda. Actually, I talked to a couple of other sponsors. Climb has always been supporting me since like we started doing anything with dirt bike tests, which has been really good. Recluse has been on lately. I use their stuff quite a bit. Fast Company. I run flex handlebars on pretty much all my bikes, and now my new e-mountain bike got flex bars on it.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Like mountain bike suspension is amazing, but at the same time, it really sucks for comfort.
Yes.
Like
yes.
they don't like comfort evidently means your bike is inefficient. And so it's the same thing. Flex bars on my dirt bikes can make bad forks good, and they do the same thing on my e-bike, which is kind of crazy. Pretty stoked on that. Going to be testing some Kreft suspension coming up soon. Getting a really, really expensive setup on that, and we'll see how that works. It's basically like factory level suspension for my KTM 500. I'll probably put it on the bike that says Portugal on it. Yeah, it's the 6 days bike. It's the 6 days bike. So Bob kept raising his hand over there, and his arm hurt so his hand was up for so long. I wanted to see how long it could stay up. But it's good exercise, Bob. What did you want to know?
You were describing the new bike introductions. And
right.
How that all works. You're describing groupthink.
Groupthink, yeah.
Which goes on Instagram. It's insane how much groupthink.
Well, and this is larger than just motorcycle media and industry. This is what's going on. Is all of a sudden with social media and the ability to connect through the internet and all of a sudden if you were an outcast, if you had some crazy ass idea and you were doing whatever it was, and we'll just talk in dirt bike terms, it's like all of a sudden you thought a trials tire was a good thing. Like trials tires, they should be used everywhere. And you start going down Trials Tire Avenue where it's like, everybody has to run Trials Tire because they're less damage to the ground and all this stuff. I know people like this. I was kind of one of the first people that actually, kind of started embracing the Trials Tire, the media. It's on the media side because I tested it. I said, I'd ridden trials bikes and knew how good they were there, but how do they work on a dirt bike? And I tested it, and I quickly identified, okay, there's definitely some positives and definitely some negatives. It's not just one size fits all. But now, if you were just that guy, and there were a lot of them, these old dudes that started running trials tires when they're out trail riding, and I started running into these guys that didn't know about the internet, and they would be out trail riding. You go riding with these gnarly guys that are going on really gnarly trails and doing gnarly trails. They're all running trials tires. They hadn't talked to it. They didn't even know about each other, but I just run into them. And then they would start going on their spiel about how it's better for the trails. Typically, these guys also worked on maintained trails, did all this stuff, but they didn't know each other because they didn't have the ability to connect. Had they had the ability to connect, they could have formed a group and started feeling more comfortable about their trials tire stance because they didn't really want to talk about it too much until they wouldn't even say anything to me and said, I'd say, I've run one of those. They're really good. And they're like, they're better for the trails. And then they pipe up and they start telling you about their thing that they've discovered, that now all of a sudden you're part of their club. They weren't going to come out of the closet about it. And now all of a sudden they're all in. They're going to tell you this is what's going on. And it's a crazy idea. But at some point you have to use some oversight and go, well, just in trials tires, if you're the kind of guy that like spinning your tire, and you like skidding, a trials tire is more destructive to the trails. I've watched this. I've seen it because they're horrible on the brakes. If you start skidding, they essentially hydroplane. They don't grab as good. And if you start spinning on a trials tire, it's way worse than spinning with a regular knobby. It just doesn't grab traction. It spins better, and it throws more dirt, and it digs better. So it's a double-edged sword. Is it better for everybody? You talk to the guys that have been exclusively running these things for a while. They're convinced it's better for everybody because it's better for them. Doesn't mean it's better for everybody. So I don't know if you can kind of there's a big load of of stuff. But you start finding your little niches on. You can find a club, and then all of a sudden you can get kind of engulfed in your club, and then you can kind of lose track of what the reality is, and so we're gonna see this a little bit in this next group of questions that Logan's gonna read. That thing died. We're doing good tonight.
Well.
Yeah.
But I have a question for you. I remember you telling me that you ran the trials tires because they were cheap. And then when
Cheap?
you started running it, yeah.
No, they were not cheap. They were more expensive.
No, the Pirellis were really cheap. And then you made them a real niche market, and the price went way up.
No, I don't. The Pirellis were cheap when they were overstocked, and then when people started realizing that, hey, you know, they're for certain people they're really good, then they, you know.
Yeah, if you hadn't run them, they'd still be cheap.
Well, no, they would have quit. They would have quit producing the numbers, and it would have gone down and down. And they would have gone back to normal prices. It was overstock. It was they'd done too many. And now look at. So now we have hybrid tires. You know, now we have Trials compound and knobby tires, and we have Trials light tires, Trials spacing tires. There's so much different things because all of a sudden, you know, cooler heads prevailed, and we said, hey, let's go from these two extremes, like Trials tires or not, and then we'll figure something. There's really good options, but. Where this is going is just like, you know, now with social media, everybody has a voice and everybody can talk. Like Kevin can sit there and tell me all this stuff, and like, God, do I have the time to pay attention to it? And I do a little bit, but it's like I don't like to. Like, what did I tell you when I was collecting these things? This is all about the all-wheel drive Christini adventure bike, which there's a 10-second video on dirtbiketest.com, and this thing just somehow it went someplace and it sort of went viral, and now it's 500,000 views and 10,000 comments. Everybody's got to say something about it. And so I went through and I pulled some of these comments just to say, like, what. So this is, do I deal with this? You know, in this it's coming from all different directions, and you can see where there's some people that actually have some really legitimate questions, and they have questions, and I want to answer those questions. That's just my nature. I want to answer those questions. But then there's the dipshits that just want to shoot something out, and they didn't do any. They saw something on the internet, and all of a sudden now they're an expert, and they're going to tell you how they think, and you with 3 or 5 followers, or you've never done a video, and and then you're going to complain about the video or the information. So yeah. Let's start with what does the sinner Jin Whitney say?
This system on the TW200 would make a truly unstoppable bike. They already seem all-wheel drive. Haha. I hope Christini eventually builds a kit for every popular bike out there. A Christini-fied Sierra 300L Rally would be like the bee's knees, or their kit on a 3-something Tenere. If they ever
effing build one.
Might just be the greatest bike in history. Those great big adventure bikes are just way too powerful and big and heavy and expensive for most riders.
So I'm just going to break this one down. This is one where I'm just kind of like he kind of hit on all spectrums there. So this system on a TW200. So all of a sudden what a TW, that's that fat tired Yamaha thing. So that's his bike. I can just kind of tell that that's his bike, and nothing wrong with that if that's your bike and stuff, but that's his world. But you start seeing where this road he goes down. He's obviously paying a lot of attention because he's talking about CRF 300L. That's the new Honda bike. And he's trying to get Yamaha to make a bike for him, a 300cc-ish Tenere for some reason. So he's TW200. He likes Yamaha. He wants Yamaha to make a bike just for him. So he's become entitled by the internet. he gets his information from the internet, and he can reach back out to the internet and lob this to someplace where now he's seen a 2-wheel drive adventure bike, which is a test bed. It's a prototype for something that was tested that I had, and we decided to throw a video up. Just it was somewhat to gauge interest, and well, guess what? 2 weeks ago, it gauged interest, and a lot of people said they want this or they didn't understand it. But this guy is all of a sudden he's found what he's seen something he likes, and now he's going to tell you what he wants exactly, and then it's funny because at the end he tells you what he wants. He wants a 300cc all-wheel drive Tenere because his fat tires didn't do it for him, which is a really weird, unique niche market just for him. Now he's like, I want a 2-wheel drive Tenere. Okay, so that's where he's at. In the end, he throws in, those great big adventure bikes are just way too powerful, heavy, and expensive for most riders. Okay. I mean, like, what was the purpose of like lobbing that into the arena? Well, yeah, but that's what people want. That's what they're buying. That's what they're spending their money on. That's what's out there. But there's the internet for you in a nutshell. It's like this is what I want specifically. This gives a bit me, and then all these all you regular people
Overdid it.
Yeah, it's not.
It's a full moon.
Not that. No, this was done a couple weeks ago. He posted that. But anyway, okay, next we're gonna go.
Amani Sony. My Royal Enfield can ride on the sand at 60 kilometers an hour speed.
Okay, so he watched the KTM all-wheel drive video, which this video, if we were pretty up to date and stuff, we'd post that video on our webpage and say, hey, go here and look at this, the show page, talk show or whatever. It's on the YouTubes. You can probably search it, whatever. It's on Dirt Bike Tests YouTube. So it's like a 20-second video of me like riding up into an uphill sand, which you never do in an adventure bike, and stop. And then I try to go, and you watch the back end dig in. Then I engage the all-wheel drive, and the bike crawls itself out and moves. I disengage it, it digs in again. I engage it, and it goes again. It's just to show. It wasn't really for publication. It was to show that it actually worked to some people that didn't believe that it worked. And then we decided to put it up there just to see what the real world thought. And this is where we're at. So is that a Himalayan, the Royal Enfield? Is it the Himalayan that he was riding there at 60 kilometers an hour in the sand?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
Aman Sani, you are just a better rider than me. Because I would not ride a Himalayan at 60 kilometers an hour in the sand. Especially not that sand, because if you hit where I stopped at 60 kilometers an hour, you would actually plow into that pile of sand. I guarantee you this, because don't ask me how I know. You would actually plow into it. The bike would start going up on the front wheel, and then when it finally did, it would actually, the skid plate would bottom out, and then you would probably start cartwheeling into the sand dune that's right in front of that. So you and your 60 miles an hour can just go to wherever Jen P. Thatcher ship, whatever.
60 kilometers an hour.
60 kilometers. So it's,
36 miles an hour.
36. Yeah. Ned does the math straight up. If you hit that at 36 miles an hour, it would not be pretty. Logan, we rode it. On the way back, we rode right over that thing.
Oh, I didn't make it up. I was going 10 miles an hour. I did not make it up.
Yeah. Well, you should have gone
straight on.
You should have gone 60 kilometers an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, that's the way it works.
I would have went over the hill.
Yeah. Hey, Craig Alberts posted that video up on the chat room if you wonder where it's at. So, what is Jurin P. Thacken Akchen.
I thought this was clickbait.
Clickbait.
My back's gonna have to take a break. I've got to go lay down.
Usually at this show, like we got 2 out of 3 people out of here. That's good. Yeah, no worries, Ned. Yeah, have a nice one. We'll try to make the show shorter next time. It's like Jimmy's the only one that has to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning around here. Not this Jimmy, that Jimmy. I thought this was clickbait. So that's the other thing you get. Like so we go and put a little something up there and it's clickbait. Thanks you. I didn't check on his followers. Ethan McLeod.
If your bike needed all-wheel drive, maybe it's time to consider that your bike is too heavy.
Let's see. If your bike need all-wheel drive, then they're same. You're thinking
Same thing.
Same thing. Yeah. I mean that's the. No, maybe you want to ride heavy bike, and here's where that technology actually really works. It's just like I have a lot of 4-wheel drive trucks. I do not drive them around in 4-wheel drive until I need it. Then I use it. Then some of my trucks are heavy and they're fine most of the time, but then when I need it, I'd click it in 4-wheel drive or pull it in 4-wheel drive or however you put it in 4-wheel drive these days, and it works. So that's the way this bike was. The prototype was set up and designed to work. So yes, you're right. Pen Kai?
Front wheel must be powered by electric motor.
So this was a comment that there's probably like 200 comments that said that. And the answer is no, it's not powered by an electric motor. There's a lot of reasons for that. The technology for that isn't quite here yet. It could be, but it's not here. So it's driven mechanically. And had you looked at any of the other 872 comments above you, which at least 50 of them explain that it's a Christini all-wheel drive. So people just get on there and they just hang out a comment. And it's like, okay, you've taken the time to watch this. Do you do the research? And then I wonder why we even, is it my fault that I didn't explain it? It's a 10-second video where there's no audio at all. So I guess next time I need to do an explanation of this video now that it's gone this viral, but that would take time. And Logan, you're going to have to shoot it and edit it, and probably it's going to take time away from your girlfriend. That's going to be tough.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What's next?
You gonna give a shot at the name?
No, that's yours.
Oh, Haraki Yatari Takadar.
Right. Perfect.
In 2015 or 2016, I saw a video on NGC/Discovery. A man modified his bike and made an all-wheel drive.
You make it out of
But this bike's cool.
What did he make it out of? Sticks and stones or? Okay. Yeah. Good. Glad that somebody did that. Not sure why it's relevant. But okay.
Lori Givens, you had to take your weight off and limp it along. Seems very inefficient. Dumb.
Well, Lori. Yeah, I took my weight off. The problem is hold on a second. Can I pat myself on the back first? As a super high level rider with skills that are beyond your comprehension, it's hard for me to do things wrong. And so that's my normal technique every single time I start in the sand. So if you want to know more about that, you can come to www.jimmylewisoffroad.com and learn how to be a awesome rider like me. That was almost like a read, wasn't it?
A little bit.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did not have to take my weight off the bike. I just can't help myself. I could use improper rider technique, but maybe next time when I need to get somebody that doesn't know what they're doing, I'll give you a call and you can come and plant your ass on the seat and take off. And what's funny is the bike will do exactly the same thing as it did in the video. It'll sink more when it's in one-wheel drive, and it will take off more when it's in all-wheel drive. Just saying. Okay. Yeah, you get this name too.
Dion van der Westenhen.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to go to Netherlands anytime soon. Yeah, yeah.
There was a better and cheaper way to get out that bit of sand. Look up and ride faster.
Oh, yeah. I should have known. This guy had at least 2 followers and no videos on an instruction on how to ride. But there he gives to someone who arguably might be a little bit better rider, have some more rider cred. He tells me to look up and ride faster. So, which that's the problem to everything, right? Get over the back and gas it. Okay, I'm going to subscribe to you for that because I think that's yeah. No, the whole video is to illustrate what an all-wheel drive adventure bike can do. That's what that's there. But just get over the back and gas it. So perfect. And we wonder why this is the second 30%. I haven't even talked about the last one. I don't know if I'm going to get to it tonight. Okay.
BF3 Forever Greenie. Someone explained to me the big difference between a sport bike and an adventure bike. They look like they're the same way. I now are sport bikes faster than adventure bikes, but other than that, what's the difference?
Okay, so this is a guy who's obviously somehow the algorithms pointed him at this video. He probably stopped looking at nudes and checked out a couple motorcycle things, and maybe one of them was an adventure bike, and then somehow he was into overlanding, and he got directed to dirt bike tests, and it's like his question is actually pretty legitimate. Someone explained to me the difference between a sport bike and an adventure bike. Like, you're just a new person. You want to know. You found this fascinating thing. You've asked a legitimate question, which is buried in 27 people who say electric motor, thumbs up.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's misinformation. That's wrong. And then he couldn't find it, evidently, to go in there, or he just asked the question. I don't know if this is the right video to ask that question, because there's probably 100 videos on YouTube that say, this is the difference between adventure bikes and sport bikes. And maybe that's the next video that he was fed. But so it's funny because some people felt the need to start commenting on it. So now we got sub-commenters on this. And like I said, that's a legitimate question for somebody that doesn't know. I appreciate this. I try to explain those kind of questions or answers to people. That's a good question. If you don't know, it's like, well, maybe just get a Harley. I mean, and probably I didn't read all the answers. I haven't read these yet. I just cut and pasted the whole thing. Somebody will probably tell them that, like, dude, Harley's the only real bike. And that's what you're going to hear in this thing, because now all of a sudden you have a voice. And would you say that if this guy stood up at the whatever meeting it was and said, I have this question, I'm here, I'm new, and is that the answer you're going to give him? So what is it? Askew?
Yeah. Adventure bikes can be used for light off-roading on things like gravel, where sport bikes are more for road.
So Askew is really trying to help here. He's one of those guys that wants to give. He feels like, he's like me. He's like, he wants to give you a good answer. He has the time to take the time to give you the answer that you're kind of searching for. Here's the thing. So there we go. And then, you don't have COVID, do you?
I don't think so.
Okay. You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Okay. Don't give it to me.
Okay.
I don't want to die. Because it could kill me, just like my damn motorcycle I rode today.
I think two-stroke oil kills COVID.
Oh, okay. Did you read that on the YouTubes? Did you get that on a forum? Did you find a little small group of people that you now, like, you're a mob that you believe that? So you guys, were you injecting it or like drinking it? Because I know we did a two-stroke.
Injecting.
We did a two-stroke cloud in my garage today after we cleaned that carb out. That's pretty good, huh? Yeah, I wish it was castor.
You weren't running bean oil, were you?
No.
Oh.
No, hopefully we took all the residue of the bean oil out. Why, is bean oil bad for you when it burns?
Oh, yes.
Hydrocarbons?
No, it causes you to loose your bowels and will poison you.
Huh. You didn't shit yourself, did you, Logan?
I've never done that.
Okay, so so now they're going to argue, right? No, Askew, the guy who asked the question is now asking Askew. What is it?
But it looks like they would weigh the same amount So what's the
Advantage.
I can't just take a sport bike with some off-road tires and go on a large trail.
So he's asking, he can't just take a sport bike and put knobby tires and go. So at least he understands that there's a difference in the tires. I mean, there's some knowledge there, but this is where all of a sudden now we're going down our specific rabbit hole and trying to figure out what what's going on here. So the next question, 5 days later, or no, a day later.
Sorry, I just realized you were asking about sport and adventure bikes. Both dual sport and adventure bikes can be used off-road. Adventure bikes tend to be heavier since they are more bulky and big compared to sport bikes.
And then he suggests a video, for him to watch or something like that. It's like, hey, go look here. So this is like something that went off the rails and then it got constructive and then somebody tried to help somebody. But in this thing, and now we're looking, I don't know how many comments are on this video. Somebody could probably look at it. You can go there and look at all these different comments and you can see how much is just gibberish, just people spitting stuff out. And finally some sort of information comes out where a guy actually, gave this guy some valuable information. I don't know. I didn't look at the video to see where it was at. But that's kind of few and far between. Most of the time we're sitting here looking at stuff, essentially just trying to kind of figure this stuff out. So Chris Real asks me, so where is this going? Dirt bike test at the short term is not going anywhere. We are going to, hopefully they are going to continue to, put more content up there, and I'm going to do stuff when I can. I want to. I mean, and where this Tech Talk Taco Tuesday moves to, where it ends up, how it evolves, that's yet to be seen. We'll kind of see where that stuff goes. I'm trying to think, seeing some of these other videos that are people are putting stuff up on the Facebook feed. Michael Klug asks, you tested the Nitro Moose with a Parker DT tires recently. Did you end up with the right size moose using the charts they have by tire sizes and rim width correct? I'm thinking of using them on my 500 XC for the annual trip. Yes, their chart is very, very good. It's really good, in fact. And that's new moose, new tire, by the way, if you're thinking about stuff. And remember, mooses, as they wear, they shrink a little bit. So, take that in consideration. But their charts are really good, and I've been very happy with my setup, and everything is really good. Todd Kelly wants to know, whatever happened to doing these on YouTube versus Facebook? Most podcasts I watch are on there. Most people, we just have a community here on Facebook, and I didn't want to kind of switch it up. And in order to do that, I mean, we could actually bandwidth this out. Would take a person in here, an extra person in here, quote, producing it and sending it out to two different streams through some sort of app or software that costs additional money, which we kind of talked about some of that earlier. So you can watch it on YouTube. You just have to watch it later. You don't get it right away because Logan has a girlfriend now. She's pretty nice. She waved the other day. I didn't scare her away or anything like that. I didn't know they were all like locked in that truck.
Yeah.
Like caged animals in there.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, they came to pick them up, and there was it was funny because they were there. We didn't realize there was a whole bunch of caged animals in that truck, and the doors open up, and it was like party inside there.
Where I go, I got the pack of these guys. You got the whole cheer team.
There's a cheer team.
Yeah.
Cheerleader, huh, Logan?
Logan in the middle of them.
Yeah.
Rough life.
Let's see. Any other good questions? What about my nav training? Shelby Kyle says, Jimmy, what do you think the reason is for Honda winning 2 Dakars in a row from KTM, who have had many consecutive? Is it the bikes riders program? Curious your take on this. You have unique understanding behind how the Dakar works and more curious on what your chop is. Shelby, hopefully you're still here because this was asked a little while ago. It's all me. No, bullshit. Yeah. Well, I tried to convince them to all ride Husaberg 570s. No, it's a lot of things. Honda wanted to win. They wanted to win from the time they invested in the program, and they just kept getting beat down is the best way to put it. They had a lot of failures and a lot of problems, and instead of looking at them as failures, they looked at them as lessons to be learned and to improve on. And that went from everything from, and mostly on a lot of fronts, it was improving the bikes, but at the same time, I think it came from the American side with Johnny Campbell and myself working with Ricky, and some of the guys working with Joanne and the guys working with Kevin and Nacho. Everybody has guys and teams. I mean, rally isn't it's like even when you listen and watch the motocross and supercross guys, there's people behind the scenes that do stuff to help them advance because they're good at what they're doing, but they need help. And so Honda spent a lot of time and a lot of money improving that bike, making that bike better and better and better. Not to say that KTM wasn't doing the same thing. In fact, they are working on a new bike all the time as well. But on my side, we focused with Ricky on really working on the navigation because we knew Honda was going to work on the bike, and Ricky worked on the bike too. I mean, I tell you, he probably wasn't happy the amount of times he had to ride in 110-degree heat to do durability along with his other teammates, because they're the only ones that can ride that bike to do the durability on it. But at the same time, we were working on navigation and stuff. It's like, hey, if your bike's going to be good and you screw up navigation, it doesn't matter how good the bike is. And Honda expected the riders were going to be as good at navigating as they were going to make the bike. And so it was a team commitment. It was a big team. And I know just from working with all the different guys over the course of it, and I work, kind of mostly with Ricky, and then also I work with Andrew Short, who's now Yamaha, and they're in the same boat. They're in the same boat as Honda was a few years ago. They want to come in and win this thing. They've won this thing before. They know how to do it. Honda won it a long time ago. They know how to do it. And if they're going to put the effort in, so on my side, we just work on the navigation. There's no magic. It's hard work. It's like, and at the level that these guys are at, they understand the basics. They know what it is, and they come back and they say, hey, we're having a problem with this, or I think we can improve here. And they come and they say, in our racing, we can improve here. And then we develop some training that works to play to that. And when you see other guys that are say like for instance, like Skylar House, for instance, it's like, well, like Skylar, he should have a factory ride, he should do this and that and all this other stuff. And it's like, he's come and trained with us a little bit in the past and stuff like that. If I were just to sit there and just blanket say, well, why can't he have a factory ride? It's like, well, he can, but a lot of these other guys come with money. They come with a personal sponsor or something like that. And so if he wants to sign a contract to ride for free, and I know this because I was in this position, he can get a factory ride to ride for free, and then he's in no better position for himself. But he hasn't had the opportunity to train for the last 2 and 3 years to work on this stuff, navigation-wise, so he's struggling there. And he has no problem with the speed. He's got that. He's got the bike riding ability and the speed and stuff like that. And so it's a combination of all, different things. And so why Honda is where they're at is because they worked really hard. It's not what they did last month or last year. It's what they've been doing the last 5 years that put them in the position where they're at now. And maybe KTM can kind of take a look back at the last 5 years and say, where did we go wrong to end up where we are here in 2 years? And they may have not gone wrong at all. They may be sticking to their program, but somebody has a better program, and somebody will come with a better program. And that's how evolution and racing. And every once in a while somebody lucks into it, but I can tell you with 100% certainty that I haven't seen anybody in the last few years luck into a Dakar win. It just doesn't. There's too many variables. So Shelby, hopefully that answers your question, and you're good. You see any other good ones in there we missed? George says he had a friend boil his bike out without a thermostat at a race start, and he surmised it was because the coolant didn't stay in the radiator long enough to cool it. Yeah, sometimes it spins, but at the race start, he probably just let it sit there and idle, and it overheated. The thermostat wouldn't help on that.
It's been a four-stroke.
Yeah, probably. Well, and if they started talking about the clutch, what is Chris Real talking about? The drop of water in the bottom of the carb.
That was the
for when I was talking about that. Yeah. There was no. Trust me, that thing was so wide open. No drops of water would have survived that moment. I had it taped, didn't I, Logan?
Oh yeah.
Wide open. Yeah, I let that thing eat. So yeah, I think we've got most of the thing. What about a coalition with other content producers to cover the road bike side, and you cross over to each other? I think I own streetbiketest.com. I actually reached out to some guys that were getting kicked out of the magazine world, and yeah, I don't know. Just I'm doing this because I'm doing dirt bikes because I like it. I worked really hard in racing to get where I did at racing, all the while working at a media type jobs to support the bad habit when the racing went away, and I managed to kind of keep that rolling, and it's still sort of rolling, but I'm at the point where it's not as thrilling and exciting as it was before. I don't, as much as I want to test, and when I hop on a new bike, I want to know everything about it. I mean, I want to know so when you ask me a question, I can give you an honest answer. And unfortunately, now that requires putting out a video and putting hashtags next to it and da-da-da-da-da and all the other stuff. It's like, so if I could just go ride your brand new motorcycle and talk about it in this podcast or do a podcast about it, then that knocks off about, 50% of the work. How hard? Hey, you got to go shoot photos the other day. How was that?
It was fun.
Fun?
Yeah.
Okay, so.
I didn't do any of the.
Okay. So notice the age difference here. So when I go do photos, it's work, but it's more fun than probably cooking bacon at IHOP, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, so you went and did all these photos, and you went and Matt shot them.
Yes.
And Matt shot the photos. You guys were trying to help me out because you knew I was in a panic situation. We need to get some stuff done, and so all this work was done, and what happened at the end?
Unusable photos.
Right. Do we want to tell why? It wasn't because the photographer was bad. It wasn't because the equipment was bad. It wasn't because the rider was bad. It wasn't because the bike was bad. What went wrong?
Gear.
Yeah. We had essentially mismatched gear. There was just something that was in the gear, and we may actually run the photos. I may just run them just because. But I mean, because in the real world, in the grand scheme of things, most people would ride with exactly what, and you wore the exact same gear today.
Yeah.
He was wearing, I'll just put it this way, he was wearing gear company boots with boot company gear.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so do it, do the math. Like, as a professional, as somebody that's supposed to know better, and they didn't know. I didn't brief them on you have to wear this gear. I didn't provide him the gear. So, okay, so Jimmy, you got a brand new bike. What do you have to do? Well, I have to get gear for the photo shoot at the right size for the rider who's going to be riding the bike. That's part of the requirements of getting the gear. You have to find the photographer. I mean, it's just like the list of stuff that goes on. It's not just go out and shoot these photos, but it was kind of like, okay, Matt, camera's sitting on the table there. Grab the camera. You grab Logan. Go out and go shoot the bike. They actually got some good photos. The gear's wrong. So if we put that up there, all of a sudden, what do we collectively dirt bike test? What does it look like?
Yeah.
Most people don't know, but those that know, all of a sudden, now we've we've just gone down. We're not at the same level. And I promise you, the guys that are kicking our ass on the amount of views and stuff would never put a photo like that up there, because it's just perceived as dorky, wrong. Mm-hmm. Those guys don't know. It'd be like me telling you right now about the new. We'd be talking about the new, let's say the new gas 350, and I start talking about how the carburetor works.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh yeah, the carburation on that bike is, and it's like, no, it's fuel injected. No, about the carburetor. And like, oh, they didn't tell me. And that's what happened. I didn't tell you. And it's like, but we don't use it. We protect ourselves of that. So there's the conundrum, and it's nobody's fault. It's my fault. It's literally my fault because I didn't provide the gear and set it out and say, okay, here's the camera and here's the bike and here's the gear.
Oh my God.
So it's not just one thing. And it was the same thing. You had that Beta X trainer was over here the other day. We could have just gone out and shot it, but I looked at it and was like, there's duct tape holding that one radiator shroud together. It's not a photo-worthy bike. You can't necessarily do it. And there's people that will do that, and they'll go out and ride it, and they also, but they're the real world guys that are just telling you the kind of the way it is, and they only know about half of it, but they'll still do it. So it's the paradox of where we're at.
It's your fault.
It's my fault. I'm complaining.
Well,
So.
I never even put that together, but it's totally true.
Yeah.
He's got boots from a gear company.
Yeah, I mean it's nobody's fault. I mean they work, right? They're good. It's good gear.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
It's good gear. It's good boots. You wear good. It's
I hate the way
but
you gurus talk about gear.
but the perception,
Or the,
like I said, the overall perception is a little bit different. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's not to this level, and if you're going to do it to this level, it has to be done that way. So. I was literally looking for the photos where it was so backlit that you couldn't see the boots. I was like, God, is there one or two that we could use in there and get it done? Harlan Miller, hey Jimmy, I have to replace the stator assembly on my 85 Honda soon. Is it better to replace the stator with OEM, used condition, or aftermarket new? Pros and cons, thanks. Harlan, there's a company called, Baja Designs used to rewind stators, but there's also a company called Ricky Stator that used to do stator rewinds, and they did really, really good work. So hopefully that answers your question, and I would just have it rewound. I mean, that's just my experience on the stators and stuff like that. Dave Scott, I have a 2019 KTM 459, I think he means 450 XCF. I would like to run lights. I ordered a Trailtech 80-watt stator and cooling fan and acquired the necessary wiring harness. Can you give me an idea on what light I can get away with not to overstress the electrical system? I'd like to use an LED headlight and taillight, but not sure how much light output I can reach with that. Well, let's see. It's I don't have the manual in front of me to see what your stator output is, but if you're doing 80 watts, then how do you do the electrical stuff? So here's what I do. Yeah, there's some math that you can easily do. You basically add up how many watts you're going to be drawing, and if you're doing 80, there's a certain amount that the bike's going to take that's going to require. So you can literally, basically. I typically these days I run my lights directly to the battery, and if I want to know how I'm doing, I have my bike at kind of idle or just a little bit above idle, and I make sure that there's still a charge going to the battery. That's the simple, basic, caveman methodology for doing it. When you're running your lights, are you still putting a charge back in the battery? And then you're okay. And it kind of depends on what kind of battery you're running. If you're going to run a hard load on the battery all the time, I would kind of steer away from lithium at this point in the game. I would still try to stay with lead acid. As lithium especially, it doesn't like the kind of like the high loads pulled against it at a constant, in my opinion, just from testing. What the people on YouTube say. I'm sure they have better reasons for that. So, is that it?
Yeah.
We're all done. You passed your bedtime? What, do you have to go to school tomorrow or something like that?
No.
Nope.
Online.
Online school.
Yep.
Right. Do you get up and brush your teeth and do all the stuff? Put some nice clothes on?
I put a nice shirt on.
Put a nice shirt. That's like me for the show. You know I'm naked underneath right here, right? All good. Hey everybody, thanks for hanging out with us for this long. Sorry for my rants tonight. I'm a little bit bitter on some of the subjects, and we'll see. Like Dirt Bike Test is not going to disappear. Just maybe some stuff will change. Unfortunately, we're not going to be putting out new magazines that I know of, or I'm not going to be. I might contribute to some if somebody can figure out how to put them out. Same thing with the website. I'm probably going to slow down putting stuff up there and just concentrate more on doing the stuff with the school. So you're going to have to reach out to Trevor at Dirt Bike Test and Scott at Dirt Bike Test if you have any questions about that. I don't know where this meaning Tech Talk Taco Tuesday, because it is kind of a Dirt Bike Test branded thing, is going to end up. It sort of depends on whether those clowns can get me sponsorship money. So if you have questions, comments, concerns, email Logan at what's your email address?
Gmail.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Logan will handle all the things from that. So, hey, like I said, I really appreciate the people that are like our regulars, our locals, we'll call them, on this thing. And I've been looking at other deals on ways to, kind of support it and stuff. And I don't. It's really worth what you're paying for it now, and I can't really raise the price on that because it's not going to get any better and if I can make it a lot better, then maybe we'll figure something out. But at this point, it is what it is. It's good times. I'm probably not going to be, and we're probably not going to do one for another couple weeks. But I guess if you're signed up to, however you sign up to get notified when we go on, it'll be there, and you can kind of check it out. And we'll for sure post on our different social platforms how things will work out and where we're gonna be. But I don't think it's gonna disappear. I just think it's gonna kind of do a little shape shifting if that's what it is. So unless Logan's gonna start hosting next week.
I think I need someone with a bigger moto mind.
Bigger moto mind. What about Bob? He's always raising his hand. You just have to he just has to be behind a black box, kind of scared of the camera. You're just the unknown comic kind of thing. Yeah, well, he kind of looks like that right now. Yeah, you guys could run this thing. I'll just kind of come in. I'll sit over there and I'll just start yelling at you when you do something wrong. And beer bottles going across. So. Okay, hey, thanks everybody. Thanks Craig, Todd, Mark, Harlan, Rusty, all the guys, Troy. I will, is George still there, or did we put him to sleep? He probably drank himself to death. Having to put up with all this, Victor, all the people. So, just let me go to real Taco Tuesday. I can go hang out at Ramiro's. We can just do this in person at Ramiro's, right? So, again, thanks to the sponsors, Baja Designs. I'm just going to kind of run through some of the people that I know sent the checks in for the first magazine. Tour Teck, Rottweiler, Double Take. There's a lot of companies that have been with, you can kind of see them. They've been around on my world for a long time, and I really appreciate that because, it literally, that's what kept me racing, and now they're kind of supporting me in this stuff that we're doing now. So we'll try to get your boots and your gear matching, right, Logan?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So you can do more photo shoots, and then you can put everything up in Dirt Bike Test.
Sure.
Okay. With that, we will see you out on the trail. Okay, cheers.